Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to the Council on Future Conflict, episode 592. My name is Scott. That's Joe Watcher. And today we're talking socialism's bad, okay? And then also the rising sun rises and it's shining its love on China. Let's be honest, Joe. You and I are here for this storyline. It's been kind of developing nicely, at a nice enough pace to where like each show we got a new kind of thing to talk about. So we're talking about China more broadly in the second thing, but we're definitely going to be hitting on the Japanese. So the Japanese are the hero in the China story today. Joe, how you doing, brother?
I'm well and good. I want to begin with a public service announcement. You know, when you go shooting and one of the objectives is shooting 3-inch dots, right? You put the little sticker on there and trying to get all your rounds in it. I'd like to point out that this is also a 3-inch dot, and that could be why we're trying to shoot 3-inch dots. Anyway, I've had that for a while.
And you know what? When placed upon a dark colored camouflage uniform, that shows up as a nice aim point on that.
It does. Anywho, it's a good day in Montana. It's 28 degrees this morning, so not too bad, and good stuff out here. We have a moose that someone donated to us, so we're going to start processing that and getting it around. And our good friend Old Hong Kong came out for a visit yesterday, and that's always a positive. So we had a good time. Lots of fun stuff going on.
Always good to see what Jim's doing. So we need to get him back on the show again next week, maybe. See what we can do about that. Watcher, how are you doing, brother?
Doing excellent. Just having a little sidebar with potential guest that looks like you might be coming on today. Looks like your little early AM podcaster version of a booty call worked out.
Are you up? Yeah, he's the only one I sent that to too. So it's not like I sent that out to 4 people, and it's which is what guys do on Friday night. They hit up 4 girls and they go out with the first one. It's like
that responds. Yep.
Like I had a buddy who did that, and it's like I felt so bad for the girl because this girl jumped at the chance to go out with him, right? And so he's like, "All right, I'll pick you up in about an hour." And like literally 15 minutes before he leaves, the other one, like one of the other ones higher up on his OML calls. And like, yeah. What do you want to do? And he's like, well, just stand by. And he calls the other girl up and is like, hey,
sorry.
Came up.
There's a bunch of commentary going on about your audio level, so you need to.
Yeah, it should be fixed now.
There you go.
Well, 99% of the time, I think Watcher's audio level is his position of his mouth next to.
No, it's not. It's the mic. It's the mic. So I mute myself a lot, and I physically mute the mic because it turns out to be the easiest. And randomly, once out of every 10 times, that resets all of my audio settings. So fun.
I just want to give a shout out to Grok Imagine for our painterly image you see here on the screen today. I said I need a picture of the Statue of Liberty holding a communist flag, and sure enough, it did it. It got it in one. This was literally the first. It gave me like a bunch of versions, but this was the first one, and so
not bad.
So yeah, they turned out pretty good, right? I mean, not bad. I mean, who says AI is good for nothing? I mean, All right, gentlemen, let's dive into it. We can catch up and chit chat a little bit later, but we got a little late start on the show, so I want to dive right in. Guys, I've been talking about terrorism, whether it's a domestic phenomenon or a global phenomenon, for some time. And I thought this was very interesting, visualizing the impact of terrorism around the world. And there is something that I see that I generally find in common with almost all these countries. They are either A, undesirable places to be for terrorism, to do terrorism, or C, or B, they are countries whose whose governments don't give two fucks about the terrorists and are willing to act decisively, right? And that's I think that bears out on here. Everywhere else, you get terrorism, right? Um, so
It looks like it's good to be
Mongolian.
um, what? It's good to be Bolivia and Uruguay. So
Well, I was gonna say Mongolia is a pretty safe from terrorism if you look at that. If you look at the graphic there, and is it Kazakhstan? I think that's
Kazakhstan
Kazakhstan
and Uzbekistan.
and Uzbekistan, and I
The
think it's
Baltics.
Is it Uzbek? No, it's Kazakhstan. No, I think it's Turkmenistan is the one where they,
Right
despite
up
the fact
against
that they're
the one right up against Iran. Yeah.
yeah, despite the fact that it's very how should we say Muslim, they are like, no, we are going to keep our traditional culture, all this kind of stuff. It's like we're not going to give in to any of these social pressures of
Oh.
for the rest of the Muslim world.
You're
Come
pretty
on,
safe
gents.
there in Korea.
Well,
Yeah,
like I said, it's hard to get to. You got to
come
get
on.
through North Korea, and North Korea doesn't allow terrorism.
Come on, gents.
Look over
I think
there.
hold on,
TNG is red, but the other half of the island is not.
I'm gonna make that a little larger because the part that I found interesting turns out is a little too small to see from that angle. But boy, would you look at that interesting little blue dot in the middle of South Africa? I wonder what's different about that blue dot from the rest of South Africa.
Is it Orania, baby?
It's not Irania, but yes. Yeah.
It's not. It's actually Lesotho, but yeah.
Lesotho, right? Yeah. Well, because they are so fucking poor, they can't afford ammo for guns.
Although I see one problem on the map there. It says that Guyana and French Guiana are both low. I would say Guyana is not low at the moment because of the risk of.
Oh, hey, wait a minute.
They just didn't even list Ireland.
What's that?
Luxembourg.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not. Yeah.
Good Lord. The Baltic Dwarves, that could be a nice place.
Well, once again, hard to get to. You have to go through Poland to get there, or Russia. So it's kind of like, I don't want to go to do
I
terrorism to
disagree with
Russia.
Bahrain and Kuwait.
I was gonna say, hold on a minute here.
So in fairness, the safest place I ever felt driving around in the Middle East was in Kuwait, because they're pretty, like, they don't. It's like you got to admit, Kuwait doesn't get as much of a bad rap as most of these other. They tend to be like, listen, we had our go at it. We're sitting the rest of these fucking wars out, right? It's like,
Is that Mogadishu? No, Yarky boy. Mogadishu is in the extreme.
this is in the extreme category. That's right. You want to show them Somalia? Yep, very dark,
Well,
very
and
dark,
hold on.
as it is in real
Sudan
life.
and the DRC.
Yeah. And then you got all of our favorites in the Sahel up here.
Wait a minute. Hold on a minute.
What's the
This
hell's
map-
going on over there?
This map is saying Djibouti's not safe.
Well,
No,
it's
Djibouti
it's
is
only
safe. Djibouti's that green right over there.
Oh, okay.
Djibouti is the little green dot.
Gotcha.
Djibouti
dot-
is safe.
For the
The
moment.
action
dot-
around
the
Djibouti
dot
is
of
pretty
sanity.
hot, but Djibouti itself is safe.
Panama, Joe, gets a good.
I was
pass.
interested in that one. There's a couple there that are like, hey, wait a minute.
The one
hold
I
on a
like
minute.
is that Colombia is actually way higher than Venezuela.
Yeah.
Huh.
So anyway, I thought this was I just want to kind of, and now if you look at America, America's high. Now, if I would have argued that in the pre 9/11 world and maybe even post 9/11, it would have been at least moderate to low. But let's be honest, there's a terrorist attack every week now in America.
So Huge S 990. No, this is interestingly not a map
Yeah, it's an
of
impact.
terrorism potential. This is where it's happened.
Yeah, so this is based on terror incidents, casualties, fatalities, hostages by groups, insurgents, and individual perpetrators. So it's a report. It's a report on how it's on how it's the impacts that terrorism has had in each of these countries.
If we're bringing it back to the World War II analogies, this is the image of the fighter plane that got hit and.
All right. So, according to the Global Guardian Terror Index 2026, countries in Africa, Asia, and some in Latin America and the Middle East are being heavily affected by acts of terror. Go so far as to say most of the world is being heavily impacted by the acts of terrorism. Within Africa and Asia, unstable countries like Sudan, Mali, and Somalia and the Democratic Republic of Congo were classified as extremely impacted by terror, as were the usual suspects like Syria, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. However, extreme classification was also applied to Nigeria, India. Nigeria, Joe, who's getting attacked by terror? I haven't heard of anybody getting attacked. Wait a second, it's the Christians, and we've got another story on that later too. India, Myanmar, Colombia, and Mexico. I tell you, I can attest to Myanmar, Joe. We've seen enough of those dump truck drive-bys in Myanmar now at this point.
Let me clarify something. Deborah Dan, Djibouti being green means go. It means it's good.
Yeah.
I want to point something out about Djibouti though. I was watching Shooter last night, and the very first scene always irritates me, because it shows the base that they supposedly deployed from, and it says U.S. Army Camp Lemonnier, spelled wrong, in Ethiopia. Literally nothing about it is right. It's not an army camp. It's not spelled correctly, and it's not in Ethiopia. But hey, whatever. It's movies.
Let's see. The U.S. and Western Europe lone wolf attacks made much of the tally, driven by Islamist and other extremist ideology. What could those other extremist ideologies be? Oh, it probably conservative, far right. Let's see. It marks Libya and Iraq as in the high category, indicative of broader trend, which saw the epicenter of terrorism shift away from the Middle East into sub-Saharan Africa, with Burkina Faso and Niger also on the high list. Areas of relative calm were sparse. Yeah, that's right, because the whole fucking world's getting it now, according to the ranking, but could be found in South Central Africa, Central America, and parts of Central Asia. Joe, I think this map is probably the visual indicator of exactly what you've been talking about, which is not so much civil wars, but these small regional conflicts going on everywhere simultaneously, right?
The world is becoming tribal,
with a lot of kind of threads that are in common with all of these, whether it's China, whether it's global leftism, whether
common
it's
in all of these is China.
Well, the two there's three movements in the world, all of which are expansive, right? They seek new ground. They seek, they wish ill on the people is Islam, China, and the kind of the globalist Marxist, neo-Marxist kind of movement, which is sometimes supported by China, but has very different aims, and ultimately in the end would be willing to fight toe-to-toe against China.
I would disagree. They both have the exact same aims, which is enslavement of the rest of the world.
Well, no, but Joe, I think that the only bone I would pick with you there is with who's in charge when it's all over with. And this is the old Russia.
But I didn't say anything about who's in charge in the end. It's enslavement. That's what I said.
Well, no. Islam wants the same thing too, right? They all want to enslave the world. I'm just saying it's three different groups of people who want to do it. That's what I'm.
No one disagreed with you at all.
Anyway, so Don, you like my like the 7 a.m. booty call there?
I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Don, it's been too long, brother. How you doing, brother?
All things considered, pretty good. Somebody asked me that this morning, and I stopped and thought about it and went, I haven't been raided by the feds. I don't have any online content that's recently been canceled.
I'm just saying.
Life is actually pretty decent while the world is falling apart. So that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything since the last time we've had you on, which is a couple weeks ago, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago. I think you came on.
Yeah, I think we're coming up in like a month, but yeah,
about a month. Anything that's jumped out of you? I mean, before we dive into our topics today, which are essentially communism in America and China, what else is kind of jumping out at you?
In the real broad strokes kind of way, because I get the feeling that there's a topic today to expand on this.
Yeah.
The open division, let's start the shooting kind of talk is progressively escalating.
Yeah, and you have colonels that say, this is not sedition. I'm a colonel, and this is not sedition.
That freaking guy.
I like the guy who immediately comes back and says, I'm a colonel too. I was a colonel too. It is sedition, right? So, okay, right. So you effectively cancel each other out. So we're back where we started from.
The first colonel is quote tweeting a colonel.
Right.
Saying this
let me just point out, as the resident CID agent, that while it might not net a conviction, it is certainly arrestable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that, Joe, I think ultimately, I guess my argument on this is going to be, if it's not to the letter of the law, it's absolutely to the spirit of the law.
It was 100% their intent.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is exactly right. They're trying to divide the military because they think the military is going to be used as a weapon against them. So they have to start introducing fractures and fault lines in the military. And while there are the key thing that Don, I think, and we could talk about this more in depth later, but the key element that Don brought up in his tweet was that a lot of the leadership don't think the way that most of the younger generation think, because they are institutionalized, and they are like let's be honest, they just come from a time when people were a lot more progressive in their views, and they're willing to put their trust in progressive leaders. And I don't think that's the way of the future, especially when you look at the opinion polls coming out of Gen Z and Alpha or whatever. These two youngest generations are trending to be the most conservative generations, in the last, 30, 40, 50 years. So it should be interesting to see how it goes.
So I don't know that conservative is the right term.
Yeah, you're probably right. I use that though, rather than say Republican, just as
they're definitively not Republicans.
Somebody, I agree with that. They're very independent.
Published a study or a survey, effectively study is the wrong word. That is, I think it's people under 30 who would rather just turn the government over to Chat GPT because with it, let's see what happens.
Yeah, let AI run it because they're way better than all these fucking momos. And it depends on which AI we're talking about. ChatGPT, no. Maybe Grok. I might let Grok run a town or something like that.
People are outsourcing their critical thinking, and I'm like, yeah, Grok, is this true?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Right.
Is this true, Grok?
Somebody the other day did that to me. I didn't even think I said anything particularly outstanding, and somebody was like, "Oh my God, you're so stupid, Grok. Tell me about this." And Grok posted some just absolute propaganda BS at me, so I just quote tweeted the dude and was like, "Grok is not my God, bro. Get your petty God out of here."
As
Grok is in Wikipedia, right? People used to say, but Wikipedia says, which I can change in 3 minutes, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like Grok is exactly the same.
And it is.
Well, the irony is that as a general person, I am fairly supportive of AI as a tool to be used for just the general purpose, right? But the level at which I see people turning to it is just befuddling even to me, right? I'm open-minded to AI, and I just don't I was like, are you so fucking lazy that you can't?
Yes.
You can't.
Just stop that sentence right there.
Right.
Are you so fucking lazy? Yes.
No. Don, I think it's scarier than that. They're incapable of understanding the intellectual back and forth of most of these arguments. So they're like,
so
Grok, tell me.
The thing that Joe is getting at with Wikipedia is it's the new instant answer credentialism, right? How could you possibly compete with all the things that AI knows? Which, by the way, if you've been on the internet for any lengthy period of time, 10 years ago, it was, how could you possibly compete with all the things that all the people who contribute to Wikipedia know? And the answer is by not being retarded. Okay?
Yeah.
That's how you compete with it.
Common sense oftentimes wins 90% of arguments.
So,
man. Incredible.
not in the show notes, not directly related, but I just wanted to show you, gents, before we move on. You want to see something really scary? Huh?
Let's see.
I don't know.
This is
Got
the
nothing here.
effect
What are we
of
talking about?
30 years of liberalism on a woman.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're not there yet. That's Rachel Maddow.
Yeah. Rachel Maddow was a hottie back in the 90s.
And now she's become Chris Hayes.
Well, I was going to say, now she's become, the guy from Shark Tank.
That's not even her final form.
Yeah, this you know what is so sad about this, and this is this way for almost any of these shrews. Look at her back when she was young again. I mean, she was a pretty girl, right? I mean, I have no idea what she was like back then, but just from the picture, you could say, like, and the world is her fucking oyster. And of course, she well, we saw what happened to her. She drank the fucking Kool-Aid.
How autistic do you want to get here? Because like we could do this and relatively quickly. She was invariably a kind of a petty bitch, and then something came along in her life and said, "Hey, not only is it fine that you're a petty bitch, you're a good person if you're a petty bitch," and we generally call that thing progressivism.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's 100%. 100% right. By the way, Joe, I wanted to just you said that the only if history has taught us anything is no one can stand up against Islam and win, and you said Vlad Tepes disagrees, and I just want to say that I wanted to add to that in the Knights of Malta.
Yeah. Who?
The Knights of Malta.
Yeah.
They had
people who actually beat the Muslims. I don't understand why this guy thinks that that's a thing.
I know. Well, yeah, I let's be honest. You know, the Knights of Malta, you could at least they're still there, right? They had their initial position in Rhodes, and then they had to go to their fallback position in Malta. But then once they got to Malta, they were like, okay, no more.
No, that is
the battle for Rhodes. I just read up a little bit on this, before I posted that. It's 200,000 to 7,000. And they let them withdraw and keep their relics and all their arms as part of it. So it was a negotiated settlement, not a defeat.
Winged Hussars would also disagree.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, they're the ones that stopped them at Vienna.
Yeah.
It's funny because I hear all this stuff about like Jewish generals are famous because of their amazing defeats of Arab generals, but then I look back and I'm like, but who hasn't defeated the Arab generals, really? Anyhow.
Well, let's be honest. For the amount of victories they had over the years, they have produced the worst generals in history, I think.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
It's almost kind of like, the chimpanzees going at typewriters, and eventually you get the Gettysburg Address.
Can I point out the reason why I said the Winged Hussars was because of Vienna? You didn't need to tell me, but anyway,
Joe, I know you know that, but I don't know. I love the chat, but I don't know if they get the reference. So,
Hey, CWSP says, has the Japanese defeated them? Yes, because you don't see Muslim people in Japan.
I mean, solid facts.
Well, and the ones that are there,
doing that. Yeah.
The ones that are there won't be there for much longer. I can tell you that.
I love her so much. We'll get there.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about her too. Hey, real quick, pull that map up again, Watcher. I want to get Don's take on the map before we move on.
Oh my God, we have a map again?
Yep. Starting off with the map.
Segment. Yeah.
Let me see.
I mean, it wouldn't be the show without it.
No.
But unfortunately, there's no place. I guess I could. Terrorism. I could mispronounce terrorism, but no, it's not that funny. Nothing to mispronounce in this net. So what this is the impact of terrorism, not like the potential for terrorism. But then again, the best predictor of future activity is past activity, and thus I think this is a applicable map. What's your take? Dark red is the worst. Green is the best. My thoughts are places that are green are either places that don't fuck around, or that are just so inhospitable that no Muslim wants to go there yet. Kind of like hockey and never mind.
Okay, so this map was pretty clearly made by a douchebag.
Well, aren't all maps? Cartographers are all known, well-known.
Yeah. There we go. There is the citation that I needed. So look, this. I don't even know how you get this map. My inclination is to say, effectively, in recorded history, we had X quantity of terror attacks that were Y percentage of the population, as done for most ridiculous based population discussion, right? Like, so the borough of New York City closest to the Twin Towers or something. Or in the case of the United States, the potential for right-wing terrorism is a 250 million people dying, so the whole country, it might end tomorrow. Or some equally stupid thing. Because notably, that entire section in Asia that is low is not low. Okay? It just isn't.
You're talking about Mongolia?
Well, so to the left of Mongolia, but Mongolia too. All right,
I mean, let's be honest. There's
that entire section. It's not low. All right.
You think there's a lot of
Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan.
I just realized a rather glaring gray area. Right here.
Right.
Is that Tibet right there?
I think it is.
Who thinks this is real? And the answer is
no.
Ireland's
I think
loading.
It's Bhutan. I think that might be Bhutan.
Oh, you might be right.
Yeah, Bhutan. I think there's low terrorism in Bhutan.
Well, gray just means they didn't collect data. But all I'm saying is Ireland is just loading. That's all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Exactly right.
Just by the way,
nobody wants to
happen
mention Ireland when it comes to terrorism.
Right.
Ixnay on the Ireland.
Another weird thing that I just noticed about this map: the three island nations that are split in half. How is it that the west side of the island is the shit half of the island on all of them?
It's Papua New Guinea, and that's Haiti over there.
And then whoever this is,
right?
Sultan of Brunei.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, Angola, Angola is the one right above it. Is it? Which one is the one again right above? Is that
Angola is
Botswana?
in Africa, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking at Angola in Africa. I was thinking the green one next to South Africa, but that's not. Angola is the one above it, the orange
It's
one.
Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe and Zambia are those two up in there.
Yeah. Zambia, that's one. Thank you. I always forget that one.
Or it's because it's not a real country. North Rhodesia is what it's called. I'm glad you gave me a chance to throw that up there.
We got
North
Djibouti
Rhodesia.
and North Rhodesia in the same segment, guys.
All right.
fives.
And
High fives everywhere.
now that Don has shit all over the Statistica map, way to go. Real hard to do there, Don.
Look, I have a certain set of skills. I assume it's why you bring me on the show.
It is exactly why we bring you on the show. All right, let's move into our next story. Speaking of people who have a certain set of skills, and those skills are to disrupt the apple cart, Netanyahu has done a good job of doing that once again. Netanyahu visits Israeli troops inside southern Syria in provocative first. Okay, I would not be happy if I were a HTS terrorist and I found out
the ridiculousness of this headline, right? They're mad about Netanyahu for this, but they're okay with al-Shara visiting the White House.
Yeah, well, that's pretty fucking provocative too. Don't get me fucking started.
All
By the way, my daughter criticized me. You know, I told you about that the other day. I'm gonna try to stop cussing as much on the show, but it just kind of rolls off the tongue.
Good luck with that.
I think it's
Yeah,
part of my charm.
especially when I'm talking about like Al Jelani, right? And I mean, that guy just makes you want to cuss. All right. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Israeli soldiers in occupied Syria on Wednesday, where the faces of the troops were blurred out in photos and videos to protect them from the risk of legal action over allegations of involvement in war crimes. Oh, is it war crimes, or is it because they don't want terrorists blowing up their families' houses? Netanyahu, Defense Minister Katz, Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, Emil Zuir, and the Israeli military chief of staff and several other security officials toured military positions in the buffer zone area unilaterally seized by Israel in December. Israel, which has already occupied Syria's Golan Heights in contravention, they have not just occupied it, they have integrated it fully. They've annexed it, right? Yeah, fully. Expanded its territory in southern Syria following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's government. It seized all the UN patrol buffer zone, which had previously separated Israel and Syrian forces in the Golan Heights, which was a fucking waste of time after all of the firing from Syria by hostile forces into Israel. Oh, they're terrorist forces. Well, the fucking UN wasn't stopping it anyway. We attach immense importance to our capability here, said Netanyahu, both defensive and offensive, safeguarding Drew's allies, especially safeguarding Israel and its northern border opposite of the Golan Heights. He added, this mission can develop at any moment, and we are counting on you. Earlier this year, the Israeli military placed new restrictions on media coverage of soldiers in active combat zones because growing concern about the risk of legal action. I'll be honest with you. They can say legal, but they're really worried about fucking terrorists blowing up their houses. Yes. Guys, what do you think? I don't think Israel's going anywhere. You know, Israel, like the liberals, when they get something out there, they want to hold on to it and keep it. I don't feel like Israel's going anywhere. I think they'll let the Druze kind of operate in that area, but outside of the Druze, I think that's about it.
Well, I think you'll see the Druze become sort of a protectorate, which is what they are now. And it'll just be one of those things like the Golan Heights settlements. They'll just remain under protection forever and not necessarily ever be annexed, just kept as a buffer zone. There's a lot to be said for establishing buffer zones inside your neighbors.
Yeah. You know, I could think of a couple countries we should have a buffer zone with, and one of them is Canada, and the other one is Mexico. Let's see. In response to the visit, Syrian foreign minister condemned the visit as illegal. Syria firmly condemns the illegal visit. Illegal by who? Whose law is it illegal for? Maybe Syria could say it's illegal under a Syrian law, but hell,
it's like
they don't even have any laws.
Russia's illegal war on Ukraine.
Oh, I know. But this is just another opportunity for me to tee it up for you guys to say there is no such thing as fucking international law. It's a fictional.
That was quite a debate we had the other day all over the internet, and people were telling me there is international law, and I'm like, no, there literally is no such thing.
Yeah, who voted for it? Look, who voted for the representatives that
passed this international law? Well, the United Nations.
Exactly right. No, they don't have the ability to make laws. Where is the Constitution that says that they? Oh, well, most places don't have a Constitution, Scott. Well, that's right. They don't have a Constitution, so they're basically under the gun. There are no guns in the UN.
It's not better if you don't have a Constitution in this particular discussion, okay? Because a local dictator goes, well, who cares about that? And that's the end of international law.
This is it comes to the power of the gun is and international law and imposing, like, for instance, if America wanted to impose international law on any small country in the world, we could do it. It is our international law that we are imposing upon you. It is the one that we voted for. You know, it's not your international law, it's our international law. And if you don't think that America didn't generally create most of these international structure to begin with, I mean, and then so if we decide to ignore them, then we're ignoring our own international laws, right?
Well, so most of the stuff that's international law, yeah, okay, we sent somebody over there and went, we're going to make a bunch of rules, and then at the end, when it was time to sign on, we went, We meant rules for you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, this is the reason why we create these rules and then we don't sign on to them. Like, for instance, the International Criminal Court. We are not members of that. There's several of these international organizations that we haven't officially signed on.
Some guy actually said to me, as in a gotcha, oh yeah, well, tell that to Interpol. I'm like, clearly you have no idea what Interpol is or does if you said that. No, they enforce international law. No, they don't.
I know that you watched a cool movie where Interpol showed up and was the Turbo FBI, but that's not how it works, my guy.
In this statement, the second argument actually holds more water with me, right? And that is this right here. This constitutes a clear violation of serious sovereignty, territorial integrity, and relevant UN. Now, that I don't care about the UN part. And he said the same thing. Now, that's actually a good point, right? Like if you establish borders of a country and you run a country and other countries around you agree that, yes, those are your borders, and then another country comes into it, they have aggressed you, right? They have broken the compact, right? It's kind of like no different than if you guys are walking down the street and somebody punches you in the face. They have done something worth. But if you don't have a gun and they do, it doesn't matter that they did something that is. They're just going to continue to beat you until somebody bigger than them comes along and stops them. Or you're dead.
Question, then. What's the difference between Israel's occupation of southern Syria and our continued occupation of northern?
100% is no different.
None.
Absolutely no different. Because in both cases, we're invited to stay there by the people who live there. So, I mean, what about the sovereignty of the people who are the residents of those areas? Does their sovereignty
determination? Yeah,
exactly right. So, anyway, this just kind of goes to show you, and this goes back to, Joe, the reason why if Russia wants to invade Ukraine and they can do it and nobody can stop them, then. I mean, when you live next door.
It's ironic that we invade wherever we want, whenever we want, with almost no legal basis, and yet we have the audacity to be mad when others do it.
Oh, right. Well, we do sometimes use a notional fiction of either our own internal process that allows us to do it. So, like, say, a congressional resolution, which it hasn't happened since 9/11, by the way, or we declare war, which hasn't happened since World War II, by the way.
Yeah.
Or you have some sort of, like Iraq, at least we had the fiction of going to the UN and pleading and basically getting, hey, look at all this fake evidence.
I was going to say this earlier when I said a violation of UN resolution. UN resolution is a nasty letter. That's it.
Yeah.
The UN itself doesn't have troops to enforce it.
Yeah. International police are stop. Or I'll say stop again. And if you don't stop the second time, I will send you a strongly worded letter. Okay.
I'll hold this up one more time.
Cool, bro.
That's not fair at all. Look, the UN has troops. The United States military will take their strongly worded letters as hey, we're going to go over there and shoot some people whenever we feel like it.
So I guess my point is that this is Wade Williams. Wade Williams is right here. True international law is a country. I can do whatever I want as long as I can and am willing to defend myself against whoever they might try to stop me.
Exactly.
And so, I use this example a lot at the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine thing. Imagine living on a bad street with right next door to like the toughest motherfucker in the neighborhood who is sometimes pleasant, but most of the time is unpleasant and sometimes gets drunk and beats his wife, right? That guy is your next door neighbor. And oh, by the way, imagine living next to that guy and there are no police to call. There is nobody to call. Now, you have a pen pal that lives on the other side of town who is the strongest person in the city, but if that guy decides not to come and help you, then you're fucked, man. And that's essentially what happened when Ukraine was getting in the neighbor's face and then assumed that the guy was going to come from across town, but he didn't. He didn't come from across town.
Remember, the first time we tried to debate international law ever was during the age of piracy, 16 and 1700s, right?
Yeah.
And I was trying to decide whose problem it was. And the decision that it came down to was what we now know as a law of the sea, that the jurisdiction against a pirate is any interested warship. Mm-hmm. Why do I bring that up? Because it goes to the entire point we've been making, that international law is whoever has the most guns decides what the law is that day, right? So crazy.
Yeah, anyway, so this is this is kind of the point that I wanted to get across in this. I'm less interested in the whole Benjamin Netanyahu Israel piece, but just let you know that Syria is still a thing. It hasn't died down. They're still fighting over there. If I remember correctly, recently the SDF troops are fighting with the Syrian military, the HTS manned military. And if I remember correctly, it's not going awesome for HTS. They're finding out that if you hang out with the Americans for 10 years and train and get all your stuff from them, that you're probably in better shape than fucking a bunch of terrorists who now call themselves an army. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think I don't. Well, Joe, what do you think? ConocoPhillips has recently signed a new deal with the Syrian government, so like Jelani, right? But I think that was part of the whole deal to get him over here, was so they could get Conoco and all the American interests aligned, and so they can start making money in Syria again. If it doesn't matter if he signs a deal with ConocoPhillips, if the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces in the Kurdish region, basically say, go fuck yourself, we're not letting you guys in here.
Yes. Yeah. I know you wanted more discussion, but I'm just going to agree with you.
That's fine. I mean, it's what else is there to say, right? I mean,
right. There was not much else to say.
All right. Anything else in the Syria neck of the woods we want to talk about, gentlemen? All right, moving on to the next.
Moving on from one well-worn conversation topic.
But see, I like this. Trump figured out his sweet spot. His sweet spot are, give me a 28-point plan in order to get peace. It worked for Gaza. It solved Middle East peace. So, well, why not Russia and Ukraine? Well, let's be honest.
Copy-pasted, huh? Didn't
well, here's the thing. I think that Ukraine is getting to the point where, like, the Ukrainian people are tired of this shit, and like they don't have the men. They couldn't keep Pokrovsk once Russia really started pouring men in. Now, let's be honest. Let's take the Ukraine side of the story, right? Oh, well, but the Russians lost tons of people taking that city. Okay, but they still took the city, right? The point is that as long as Russia wants to continue to feed the meat grinder, they will continue to take ground, no matter how many Western weapons or Ukrainians valiantly fight for their land, right? Ultimately, they just don't have the bench that Russia has, and Russia's willing to continue to take the punishment. Don, I'll let you jump in here first. Trump's 28-point Ukraine plan. You think it could work?
The only thing that has ever mattered here is whether or not Zelensky is going to agree and or has enough backing to keep being a douchebag so he can get free money from the rest of the West, or from the West, that he can funnel into wherever he's going after Ukraine falls. His and a bunch of his generals' retirement plans are really what we're all worried about here. Whether or not he can, I don't know, move to Boca Raton or Florida or wherever it is that he's going. That's pretty much it. Everything else is a stupid shell game. As the who's the British guy? The one that looks like a Muppet. I don't remember the prior prime minister over there, Boris Johnson. There we go. Him just going to Ukraine and going, oh, just don't surrender, or don't agree to peace. That's all it really took. Like, oh, hey, we'll keep bribing you to do corrupt things is all that it takes for them to keep going. And so, if the reality is Trump can get everybody in the West to stop sending them money and guns and whatever else they can sell, then this is over.
Yeah, that's interesting. You should mention that. I mean, ultimately, I think France wants to fight Russia more than Ukraine does right now. I mean, at least on a population level. The French defense minister said we need the young men of France to get ready to be able to fight Russia someday, right? With the idea like it's coming, it is coming. We're gonna, I'll be honest with you. When a general says it, I don't blame the general because the general just wants more money, right? And he's willing to say whatever he needs to say. But when politicians say it, that's like they're trying to change the tone of the political speech in their country. And so I think it's absolutely something that they're spoiling for. They need a bad guy to kind of, push their. We saw in Germany they're bringing back the conscript forces. So. They got a brand new tank. They just unveiled the new version of the Leopard 2, the Mark 8 or whatever, Alpha 8 or whatever. So it's that's the new version, Leopard 2 A8, right? Yeah, I think that's it. Anyway, so here's let's see what Al Jazeera says about Trump's 28. I will notice the reason why I chose Al Jazeera when I was going through all the headlines about this story. Al Jazeera was like, "Could it work?" Not like, "What a total betrayal of Ukraine." Like I think CNN's was like Trump's betrayal of Ukraine to Russia, right? Because he's saying that, gosh, God forbid, Ukraine should concede some land to Russia. The United States has revealed a 28 points of its proposal to end the Russia-Ukraine war to President Zelensky. The plan has been heavily criticized as far too favorable to Russia by many observers. Well, they are winning. Is in its draft stage and has yet made public. However, a Ukrainian official is understood to have provided the details to the international media.
Let me point out that the land concessions were land that was already lost in 2014.
Yeah, well, I think there's more of like Donetsk than it's like it was kind of divided in half in 2014, but Russia would get, but it's almost all land that they already have now. So it's kind of like it's occupied land already. So this is not like them getting like you having to retreat to the Dnieper or something like that. Which, Joe, if you remember correctly, we called it like literally in the opening days of the war. Russia's going to want everything essentially east of the Dnieper, and this is kind of what it's boiling out to be. It's not exactly all of that, but let's see. So what are some of the points here? Ukraine's sovereignty will be confirmed. Comprehensive non-aggression agreement that will be concluded between Russia, Ukraine, and Europe. All ambiguities of the last 30 years will be considered settled. That's a kind of important. If they say everything is settled, there's kind of like no recriminations or like trying to recapitulate the entire last 30 years. That kind of takes all the wind out of Ukraine's sail to ever get any of the stuff back. I think that's actually a pretty big admission. Dialogue will be held between Russia and NATO, mediated by the U.S. to resolve all security issues and create conditions for de-escalation. It's interesting that we would be the mediators. We are parts of NATO, but it just goes to show that Russia still sees us potentially as as long as Trump's the president. Still sees us as a trusted agent in this whole thing. Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. The size of the armed forces in Ukraine will be limited to 600,000 personnel, which is still a fucking massive military. I mean, like the South Korean military, set to
the size of Ukraine. That's a pretty massive military.
Yeah, 100%. Ukraine agrees to enshrine in its constitution that it will not join NATO, and NATO agrees to include in its statutes a provision that Ukraine will not be admitted to in the future. NATO agrees not to station troops in Ukraine. Okay, all of this I can live with. European jet fighters will be stationed in Poland. U.S. security guarantees will have the following caveats. The U.S. will receive compensation for the guarantee. I don't know what. Oh, I must be like minimal rights.
Yeah.
That's. If Ukraine invades Russia, it will lose the guarantee. If Russia invades Ukraine, in addition to a decisive, coordinated military response, all global sanctions will be reinstated. Recognition of the new territory and all other benefits of this deal will be revoked. That's actually a pretty smart way to put that.
Yeah.
Because it essentially says, listen, if you guys don't trust Russia, then we're basically going to take everything away from them if they do anything stupid. If Ukraine launches a missile at Moscow or St. Petersburg without cause, the security guarantees will be deemed invalid.
Oddly specific.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ukraine is eligible for European EU membership. Okay, so they're splitting the baby on this one, right? You can't join NATO, but you can join the EU. This is the fucking deal Zelensky could have made without a war before the whole fucking war started, which is sad. And they would have kept more territory. Ukraine is eligible for EU membership. A powerful global package of measures will be provided to rebuild Ukraine. Yeah, this is exactly what we talked about like years ago, where we were talking about how the West is going to get rich rebuilding Ukraine. Let's see. Would you go into the extraction of minerals and resources, infrastructure development, World Bank? Russia will be reintegrated into the global community. This is freaking huge for Russia. This would be a big win for Putin if he could get this pulled off. Russia will be invited to rejoin the G8. Frozen funds will be used as follows: $1 billion in frozen Russian assets will be invested.
100 billion.
100 billion. Thank you. In frozen Russian assets will be invested in U.S.-led efforts to rebuild and invest in Ukraine.
There it is. That's the payoff.
That's not even that much money. I mean, they're going to get $1 trillion just from the. So if I go back up here,
yes. But what does that imply? Who does that imply has already wrapped up all the rebuilding contracts? That's
well. No. Listen to this part here. Let me go back to number 12. Powerful global package of measures will be provided to rebuild Ukraine. The number one point on this: the creation of a Ukraine development fund to invest in fast-growing industries, including technology, data centers, and artificial intelligence. All this is U.S. This is all fucking right in the U.S. main vein, because it goes to the U.S. and then we build Bechtel builds a fucking data center or something like that in the Ukraine. The U.S. will cooperate with Ukraine to jointly rebuild, develop, and modernize the gas infrastructure, including pipelines and storage facilities. And, oh, by the way, that would include the Russian pipelines that go through Ukraine. Let's see. A joint U.S.-Russian working group on security issues will be established. Russia will enshrine in law its policy of non-aggression towards Europe and Ukraine. The U.S. and Russia will agree to extend the validity of treaties on non-proliferation and control of nuclear weapons, including the START 1 treaty. Ukraine agrees to be a non-nuclear state in accordance with the treaty on NPT. Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant will be launched under the supervision of an International Atomic Energy Agency, and the electricity produced will be distributed equally between Russia and Ukraine. That's interesting. Both countries undertake to implement educational programs in schools and society aimed at promoting understanding and tolerance of different cultures and eliminating racism and prejudice. In the case of two countries that like literally kill each other over the most inconsequential differences, this actually is probably smart to do. But I don't think Russians hate Ukrainians, though Ukrainians absolutely fucking hate Russians. All Nazi ideology and activities must be rejected and prohibited. That's kind of interesting. The denazi.
That's kind of a no-go for Ukraine.
Well, we're going to need our Nazis back. Let's see. Territories. Okay, so here's the territories. Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk will be recognized as de facto Russian,
Let me point this
including
out.
by the U.S.
Those all already voted to leave prior to the Russian invasion. Crimea was already approved by the Ukrainian parliament prior to the 2014 revolution.
Yeah. Yep. This is all true. Kherson and Zaporizhia will be frozen along the line of contact, which means they will de facto recognition along the line. So essentially, what you have is basically split in half for both of those. Kherson south of the Dnieper would be Russian. Kherson north would be Zaporizhia. Same thing, but Zaporizhia is mostly in the possession of the Russians. Russia will relinquish other agreed territories it controls outside of the 5 regions. That's interesting.
They'll pull out of Kharkiv and the area.
Yeah, Kharkiv and Sumy up in the north, where because they're currently pushing towards Sumy.
And that stupid island in the middle of the Black Sea.
Yeah, right. Ukrainian forces will withdraw from the part of Donetsk that they currently control, and this withdrawal zone will be considered a neutral, demilitarized buffer zone, internationally recognized as territory belonging to the Russian Federation. Russian forces will not enter this demilitarized zone. After agreeing to future territorial arrangements, both Russian Federation and Ukraine will undertake not to change these arrangements by force. Any security guarantees will not apply in the event of a breach of this commitment. The Russians will not prevent Ukraine from using the Dnieper River for commercial activities. Humanitarian committee will be established to resolve outstanding issues. All remaining prisoners and bodies will be exchanged, yada, yada, yada. Ukraine will hold elections in 100 days. That's the no-go. Zelensky's like, no fucking way, you can't make me.
I want to back up some wording here. All civilian detainees and hostages will be returned, including children. There might be some civilian detainees who are detained for partisan activity, but those children and parents, they were evacuated and eventually allowed to return home already. So they were simply moved out of the line of fire. And both sides did it. Everyone claimed Russia kidnapped these people.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to say it, though. That way, even if here's the thing. They either returned back or they decided they wanted to stay in Russia, And same, Russian, like a POW who wants to stay in Ukraine, right? Okay, then they could stay there. They just need to make that clear that they're not being held in like a camp or something.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. All parties involved in this conflict will receive full amnesty for their actions during the war and agree not to make any claims or consider any complaints in the future. I hate to say it, but I think that's actually a pretty important thing almost about any war that you got to have a kind of like if recriminations just continue on into the future, then what's the fucking point of stopping fighting? This agreement will be legally binding. Its implementation will be monitored and guaranteed by the Peace Council, headed by Donald Trump. Sanctions will be imposed for violations. Interesting that is it the president part, the president headed by the president of the United States, or President Donald Trump? So that he could continue to head the Peace Council.
It is also interesting that it says a Peace Council and not the United Nations, which every other has always said.
Yeah. I think it'd be interesting if they have a separate council that's set up for this, which wouldn't surprise me. Once all parties agree to the memorandum, the ceasefire will take effect immediately after both sides retreat to agreed points and begin implementation of the agreement. One of the things that I heard in a comment online was that essentially, Ukraine for 10 years would get some sort of like NATO commitment that if they are attacked by Russia 10 years after this agreement, that it would be like essentially attacking NATO, and NATO would then respond as if Ukraine were a member of NATO, but that would sunset after 10 years. That's not the worst idea in the world, as long as we have the ability to leave NATO before that, and that the United States is not on the hook for that, because ultimately, you can't force anybody to go to war over a country like Ukraine, no matter what you agree to on a piece of paper like this. Gentlemen, what's your take on this on this document. I think this is actually a fairly reasonable, starting point for negotiations between the two.
I think it's very good, but I think the rest of Europe will not go for it.
Yeah, I don't think Zelensky will go for it. Ukraine might go for it, but Zelensky won't. Don, what's your kind of take on this?
That seems right to me. Again, the thing that needs to happen here, and there's some of it in there, is how is it that we're going to get, and let's be honest with ourselves, one of the most corrupt nations at minimum in Europe, probably in most of history, to decide that they have gotten enough corruption out of this war that the people who were going to make the decisions are going to go, yeah, okay, I can retire comfortably now, and hopefully I can still be attached enough to power that I can capitalize on this again in the future. And there's some of that in there, but I don't know. It's hard to say how you've got corrupt enough for ridiculously corrupt people.
It sounds like a Privy Council topic. Yes. Sorry that you're going to the dock and you can't make the show there, old Hong Kong. We wish you were here, but if you can't be, that's okay. We'll get you next week. The thing that I find to be interesting here is if the Ukrainians were smart, they could make, especially the corrupt ones, right? Now, maybe not Zelensky because he's too close to the action, but like for nameless political Ukrainian number 17, I would be all for this because that guy is going to be able to make fucking bank as long as he didn't do anything just grossly illegal during the war. The Ukrainians are going to make out like fucking bandits. There will definitely be winners and losers inside Ukraine, but the people who are
already making out like bandits. So you're just trading one source of grift for another.
Well, I think this one would be less hazardous to their health, is what I'm thinking. I think honestly, what they've been able to get so far is peanuts compared to what they would be able to get off of the fund the redevelopment. Well, that's true.
I've got a good grift going. I'm going to keep the good grift going.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this? I'm tapped out on you.
Here was the statement from Zelensky real quick if you wanted that.
I don't care.
All right. Sounds very weasel worded. So
I mean, the first word in there is the only one I needed to see after are you guys going to accept this? No.
Well, I guess the general consensus on his response was, well, it's nuanced and that they were willing to work on it. Well, so I mean,
nuanced is a clever way to say weasel worded.
Well, 100%. But then again, you got to remember, any legal document, which a treaty is a legal document. Joe, the only kind of international law that potentially matters are mutually agreed upon and ratified treaties between two countries. That might be, but that's more of an international agreement than a law. But it's an agreement with stipulations and potential penalties and whatnot in it. So that's just an agreement, though. That's not really a law. Anything else on this, guys? All right, moving on. Last of the odds and ends. We're going a little long. We got an extra odds and end for you today because let's be honest. I feel like we have talked about the story before, but I think that people around the world are not talking about the story enough. Heaven forbid you talk about persecuted Christians because, they're actually being persecuted and nobody gives a fuck.
Christians were asking for it.
Yeah, we're asking for it. Them and their proselytizing.
A rare cannon enters the chat.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see. Armed men abduct children and staff at a Catholic school in Nigeria days after latest abduction. So it's almost like this is becoming just like the national sport.
Sounds like the Boko Haram was like, we got away from that for a while. Maybe we should go back to that. It's getting us a lot of attention. Crazy.
Yeah. You know what's so weird is like you guys saw his post like way before I did. Like it took so long for it to pop up on StreamYard. So, anyway, let's see. Armed men attacked a Catholic boarding school in western Nigeria and abducted several school children and staff on Friday, the latest in a spate of abductions of Africa's most populous country that came just days after 25 schoolgirls were abducted in a neighboring state. It's almost like Islamic men are so unpopular that nobody wants to date them. It's like nobody wants to date you, bro.
She's just not that into you.
Challenge that schoolgirls shouldn't be dating.
Well, but you're talking about Muslim men. As long as they're older than 9 years old, they're fair game. That's
why
the Prophet Muhammad
on Tour's heart to make the anaconda right in the eyeball.
Anyway, let's see, where was I? Oh yeah, the attack and abductions took place at St. Mary's School, a Catholic institution in Garwa. Local governments and Papri community. Let's see. They did not disclose the number of students or staff attacked, nor who might be responsible. Yeah, you don't want to say who's responsible because it would go to the agenda that you say is not occurring in your country. The Niger State Police. It's interesting that I think this should be Nigerians. Or no, Niger is the state within Nigeria. There's also a separate country called Niger, so that's what was confusing me.
All along the Niger River.
Funny how that works. The Niger State Police Command said the abductions took place in the early hours of Friday, and the military and security forces have since been deployed to the community. It describes St. Mary's as a secondary school, which in Nigeria would serve children between the ages of 12 and 17.
So there's the problem I have with Nigeria. Okay. The abductions took place in the early hours, and then military and security forces have been deployed to the community. Knowing full well that Boko Haram targets Christian schools, particularly girls' schools, you should have already had forces in the area running patrols and protecting that school.
Yeah. I mean, but Joe, the problem is they have literally said there's not a problem for Christians.
That's my problem here is that they claim they're saying one thing but doing another, right? And he says that no, all of them are treated and protected equally. If they were protected equally, there would have been armed military or police forces near this school to defend it. Yeah. Now, ironically, in the first attack at the MAGA school, there were actually police present who did try to fight back, but were overpowered. It seems like we're going backwards on this.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I forgot about this. I thought Boko Haram would be doomed once Michelle Obama held up that "Bring Back Our Girls" sign.
How'd that go?
Just like the same time when she held that sign up that says Coney 2012. Now it's 2025, and Coney's still in the jungle somewhere.
Coney's still running around in Sudan. Ivan Nutscratch, there will never be mass abduction of young girls in Dearborn because they're all already Muslim.
They are all Muslims already. In a separate attack on Monday in Karwa State, the borders Niger State, armed men attacked a church, killing 2 people. During the attack, 38 worshipers were also abducted. Wow. Let's see. That's from the secretary of the Christ Apostolic Church. Let's see. He said the armed men were demanding a ransom of 100 million naira, which is approximately $69,000 for each of the abductees. Nigeria's president postponed a trip to this weekend's G20 summit in South Africa in light of Monday's abductions and the attack on the church. We will use every instrument of the state to bring these girls home and ensure the perpetrators of this wickedness face full weight of justice. I will believe it when I see it. Gentlemen, Christian massacres, Christian abductions in Nigeria.
Actually false too. It says no group has claimed responsibility for the attacks in Niger and Kebbi State. Boko Haram did claim the attack in Kebbi State last week. So.
Don, you've been following this story, the whole kind of Nigeria Christian. Oh, look who decided to show up. Welcome.
Yeah. I got 15, 20 minutes to talk.
Hey,
to hang out with your bros.
Finger steering wheel. Hold on. Remember? Oh,
And he's gone.
And he's got.
I was going to point out that yesterday we talked about his BMW SUV, and I was like, he goes, "Yeah, guys like that are jerks." I said, "No, they're not jerks. They're just pretentious." And there he has his steering wheel on there, being pretentious, just like I said.
Pretentious. Jim, we're talking about the Christian abductions and murders in Nigeria. What do you think? Go.
I think people need to get their head wrapped around the fact that it's a problem, and specifically when I say the people, the folks who run that country, the various tribal leaders, and the president who is aging, need to let young people, the 50-somethings, come in and start taking power and turn that country into the powerhouse it should be. And there's no excuse for allowing what's going on in the north. It's just it is a disinterest of tribal proportions, I think is the way to put it.
Do you think it's willfulness, or do you think it's just cognitive dissonance? Like that can't be happening.
Oh no, I thought they're well aware it's happening. It's just it's not members of their tribe or part of their power base.
Okay.
So I think when you say dissonance, I think that drives dissonance. But the folks in the southeast corner of the country couldn't give a shit about the folks in the northeast corner of the country.
Right.
Yeah. You've got a separation. You've got the Islam line, which is dynamic in Nigeria, and the folks coming out of the Sahel and Central Africa are out of their minds. You know, these are folks being driven by investments from the Gulf and investments from the North and investments from Russia and China. And it's all they're fighting over little mines and little districts, and it's a free for all. The Nigerian government should get its act together, but it claims it doesn't have money, which means the money's going somewhere, right? So, I
mean, it literally should be the richest country in Africa, and yet this is the situation they find themselves.
Absolutely, it's time for this new generation of Nigerian leadership to step up. They're out there. They're already wealthy. They're successful. Many of them are London based, and they've been talking about it for years. And there's no good time to go in and clean up a country, but the time is now. And this is a good reason, because you'd be able to troll the United States government into supporting you on the issue of Christians, which would bring investment money for northeastern Nigeria.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think ultimately countries that can talk about how important their oil are the ones that become the squeaky wheels that can get the American grease. I mean, if you're talking to Donald Trump, that's, I think, the way through his heart is to let him in on the mineral extraction deal that he would be able. But I don't think Nigerian leadership that's currently there wants any part of that.
Well, yeah, I think Nigerian leadership, it's just too old. The young players are not. Yeah, the young players haven't asserted themselves, and there's not a good time for anybody to step down. So, I think maybe in this next election cycle, the young Nigerians will step up in a positive way. And there are some really good leaders, some women. And, the correlation in these countries in Africa is when somebody appears to be a good candidate, they usually get arrested or charged with something. So you want a list of who should be leading Nigeria in the next cycle, go see who's gotten in trouble with the government in the last 5 years.
Good point.
But my experience with them is they're very nice. So I remain, Joe, ever hopeful.
Well, Joe is deeply cynical, and as well he should be, I think.
We had this whole discussion.
The only thing not dark about Joe is his dog.
Jim has gotten me to commit to being hopeful through Christmas. Correct?
Oh,
we had a discussion yesterday. So
that's it.
But that's the time to be hopeful in the year between Thanksgiving and you give thanks at Thanksgiving, which is next week, and then you have hope until Christ's birthday, and then you realize how we squandered all the gifts that we've been given, and then you go into the funk for the rest of the year.
I'll tell you, the only thing I'm looking forward to this season is that Don's great deep radio voice cracks at some point and
There we
goes
go.
full setup. I doubt it. I doubt
I'll
it'll.
work on that for you.
I doubt it'll ever happen naturally. But yeah.
Gents, as long as we have Jim here, do you want to switch and talk China real quick?
Yeah. We've got China as a main topic today. You wanna take a swing?
Well, yeah. I actually I do. So you've been watching the ongoing purges.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like weekly. So a lot of different takes on this. A lot of people are saying Xi Jinping's cleaning house because he wants to. And there's a counter narrative that house is being cleaned because they want to get rid of Xi's allies, right? So you get a play. There is a play. There's a play underway in China. Now, this is not, you know, China's going to implode and go to hell and blah, blah, blah. It's more, there is something going on and everybody needs to be ready for a period of instability, which may be manifest by the death of a leader, the presentation of a new set of young leaders, you know, TBD, right? Because it used to be you got to see them early. They were part of the standing committee and the Central Military Committee, and they were, you know, they would choose somebody and then they would run them for a few years. There are going to be some new faces that pop into this, I think, and that's all underway from what I can tell. And again, I'm not a internal China prognosticator, but I do have friends who are, and I listen to them, and they've exhibited some angst about this process for the last couple of years, and what their concerns were that she was not going to be able to maintain the strength he had. A lot of this is economically driven. If you're not performing, right? And if you see the people who are getting taken down, you know, the head of the procurate who was on the standing committee with Xi was like a buddy of his for years and years and years. To have that guy go down, it leaves his flanks vulnerable. So we'll see how they handle it. And it can go one of two ways. Either it causes instability or it causes a refresh where they bring in new people. Haven't seen either yet, you know, because they limit transparency.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I've been looking at that, and that's the thing that the thing is there's no clear signal that this is sending because allies of Xi have gone away. Like people that were literally his go-to people in the military have gone away. And then you've also seen people who are seen as potentially, you know, non-aligned. Makes me feel like that they were actually aligned with the other side. But I don't get a feeling of who the other side could be in this outside of just military leadership.
I think there's probably a fairly strong commercially oriented subgroup among party members and wealthy party members who are displeased with the economic trajectory that they have. Mm-hmm. And so and again, this is kind of finger painting, but I think that there is a group of people who would like to see a different path. And it would be the kind of people who were part of the United Front 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when it was a little bit more, you know, we can figure out a way to get along a little bit better. And they were foisted out. And I think they never went away. They just kind of drifted at the edges of power. There may be some coalescing of that kind of psychology, but that kind of psychology brings in regionalization. So the Cantonese of interest, the Shanghainese of interest, the Northeast of interest. And everybody has different goals at that point. So
you think that instead of being like the old Shanghai clique, you know, for was it Hu Jintao's kind of group, and do you think that's kind of gone away and it's more like commercial alignment? Because I mean, you know, the money is there.
Yeah, commerce is power, but you need both the party power and the commerce power in the same pocket. So it would be where the party overlaps deep wealth. I think that becomes the regionalization stuff that people talk about.
Well,
So,
the interesting thing about it being regional would be potentially you could see some sort of we're going to go our own way potentially. Like, I mean, just think if the the kind of the commercial corridor were basically say we're tired of paying for all of the all of the rest of the country. These people are
well, they're getting addicted. They're getting addicted to buying Russian energy very cheaply. They're getting addicted to having a place to dump goods. Read Russia and the Middle East and Africa. They're really not playing well in a lot of places. I mean, Latin America, Chinese cars are doing real well. I was talking to guys in Brazil, and they were flabbergasted how good the $20,000 Chinese electric car is. So, yeah, it's an interesting time. I mean, I think she's getting long in the tooth, but he is a powerful guy, right? I mean, he architected it to be the tutto capi, so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, the problem with their electric cars is they're 20 times more likely to just spontaneously burst into flames than the rest of them. So, I mean,
yeah, but that's not an issue. That's not an issue in a land with no liability coverage, right? I mean,
right. This is exactly
if it happened in Manhattan or LA, they'd get sued. But you're outside of Manaus and you're on a road between towns.
Pinochet's got a quick question for you, Jim. For $2 over here on Rumble, he says, "Can Jim give a quick big cookie, little cookie explanation on how China picks its leadership and what type of people are doing the picking?"
The party. So at the senior members of the party, when they get together in their annual and then 5-year deals, and technically the New People's Congress, but the New People's Congress is a feeder mechanism. But once you get above that and you get into the groups that are going to the retreats, so every year they go to a retreat, usually at the ocean, that's where those decisions are made. And they ostensibly vote, but they vote within a very small group of people. They select. Highly meritocracy based, what have you done? They move them around to the various provinces so they don't develop a single power base, but they look at performance and what they've done for the party. Does that answer the question? I mean,
I think so. I mean,
yeah, it is a very good meritocracy. But again, the sad thing about it is Hitler's Germany was a good meritocracy when they were doing their 1930s work. They just lost the bubble as they got into the 40s, and by purging all the Jews, they lost a lot of their science base.
Well, when they do fascism right, it's actually a high functioning meritocracy. The problem is that you also have to be a psychopath to essentially
exactly
live in a country like that.
You got to have all the paths. You got to be sociopath, psychopath. The curious thing about the Chinese is they're not insane.
Yeah,
they're just very systematic about it. And out of let's say 1 billion people, they generate some really bright, really capable folks. And I think for a few years they lost their best and brightest to industry, but the party now has to pull a bunch of those people back. That's why I say that I think that there is a grouping of commercially successful people who are now distorting party dialectic, and we'll see what that does. And again, I'm way outside the bubble and I just get snippets, but that's kind of what my instinct tells me.
Yeah. While we're on this topic, Don, you got any thoughts?
That seems decently well covered to me.
Yeah. I just want to make sure you had an opportunity to weigh in.
I like it. I like it when Don throws hard balls. Don,
I know,
right? hard balls, man.
I'm here for you, Jim.
So we will just do segment 2 first, and Jim, as long as you have time to stay, we'd love to get your take on all this stuff.
So I've got about 10 or 15 minutes here, and then I got to bail. But
great. Go ahead.
Oh no, just China. Well, so what China is going to do now, vis-a-vis all these areas of potential conflict, is they're going to make a lot of noise, and what they're doing is they're building a sustainable third column in various places. Read Venezuela. They're probably doing it the same in Cuba right now.
Yeah.
My guess is that they're gonna create as much long-term trouble in northern South America as they can if we take away their baby. And Venezuela is their only real baby in the region. It's the Belarus of China, right?
Well, couldn't you argue that the number one bridesmaid is definitely Panama to Venezuela's bride?
Well, yeah, but they don't control Panama. They have tacit commercial control of something that is fragile. That goes away real quick unless they do damage to the canal, which probably don't have the balls to do. So my take is that's decay. Their control over the canal is decaying quickly, and they know that, which is why they're pushing back so hard on all the commercial activities to regain control of it. What it shows is it is not a commercial investment by a commercial entity out of Hong Kong. It is a strategic, party-driven control issue. And the Panamanians are beginning to figure out that they're going to have to do something about the Chinese, and that's a proximity exercise, and that's a we've got a battle group floating around in your ocean or your pond.
I think the easy button for the Panamanians, and they've already started to lean on this a little bit, is the Americans, right? I mean, like, hey, we'd love to have your jungle school back in Panama.
Well, I think the easy thing for the Panamanians is to hire McCullough to run the place. But the Panamanians lost the offshore banking game, right? The Europeans and the U.S. shut them down. Yeah. So the Panamanians need a raison d'etre. And so at some point they'll figure something out. But economically, they're distressed, and all they have is the canal and the ports. If you can't run black money, then there's very little other thing you can do. So my guess is you're right. They'll probably end up having to join the American sphere. But we got to come up with a reason why and what they do beyond the canal. I think Colombia is just spinning out of control because that president's weak. Everybody knows he's weak.
Yeah, Petro's just a placeholder.
But the Chinese are flowing in there real hard, trying to keep him in power and push him backwards towards his Marxist roots. Brazil, Lula, everything's on hold because the election next year, Lula's in charge. The Chinese are dumping money in there like nobody's business. But the Brazilians, in conversation in the last 3 weeks, the Brazilians are anticipating that they will re-engage with the United States in a better way, I think is the way to put it. And they're uniformly committed to the Atlantic Ocean Basin doctrine, but Lula is not. And Trump and Lula don't get along.
Yeah.
If you see Trump and Lula show up in the same room in the next couple months, it's a very good sign.
Let's turn our attention back to Venezuela. What's your impression? First time I've talked to you since the big buildup has occurred. Now that the aircraft carrier is on station, and it looks like the forces are pretty set, and training is underway. What's your kind of over and under on Venezuela, or is this all a big feint before the real attack on Mexico?
I think what it comes down to is the restating of an old adage out of Vietnam, which is Bolivar doesn't surf. So what you'll see in Venezuela is a slow breakdown, and we've just got to find somewhere for Maduro to go, and he doesn't want to go to Moscow.
Yeah.
So it's the issue with places like Venezuela. There are 3,000 people who feed off that government narco coffer, right? There's no way to replace that cash flow for those 3,000 people. So those 3,000 people will stay in place and fight, and they become the third column for the PRC or whoever else wants to dump money in there. It's going to come apart, and it's one of those things of trying to maintain control of it when it comes apart is very difficult to do. But the Venezuelans don't need to be thrown under the bus again socially. They've taken a lot of shit for the last 30 years. And it is one of the best countries on the planet, so it's worth saving. The question is, can we save it from itself? The answer is, I don't know.
Venezuela, oddly enough, Venezuela and Nigeria basically occupy the two same positions in both continents. They should be the richest countries in their respective continents, yet they've allowed something to basically take that away from them.
Yeah, I agree totally. In Venezuela, so full disclosure, I had to work in Venezuela a couple of times, and the people I dealt with were just wonderfully professional. From the Guardia Nacional, I think it was, through the guys who had the bottling capability, companies like Polar and CanTV. They were all super professional, very well run companies, and the socialist movement just crushed them. So I mean, it's what we see in Venezuela should be reflective of how we're looking at people like Mamdani and the lunatic who took over Seattle. We don't need that here, right? And it's insidious because everybody's like, oh, well, Seattle, oh, so sensitive. Yeah, but at a certain point, when you have a gap in the armor, they will shove themselves in. And I think we've seen this with the leftist movement in Washington trying to assert itself. So you get a big rightward jump, then you end up in a national security crisis of some sort. Something gives, right? There's a big economic give, or something causes the country to destabilize. Those people are well poised and well funded to step in and do to the United States what happened in Venezuela, right? And that's what scares me when I begin to see major cities, and we're talking New York, for God's sakes, the center of our economic model, center of our finance model. If I was a leader of a company in New York right now, I would be scrambling to get the hell out of there. So I would be headed to Dallas or Miami,
right?
Or not a lot of places to run anymore. North Carolina's gone. I'd say Dallas and Miami. Yeah.
Well, my understanding is it is like the number one destination for the liberal who is tired of the communist countries they live in. It's literally Austin, Texas, is where.
Austin, Austin's a problem because it sucked a lot of California tech people in early, young ones, and they are unabashedly left. Atlanta is gone because it's a machine town. North Carolina's gone because it got so much New York and so much California from the B of A acquisition and merger. So Raleigh-Durham is very left, and we're seeing that now. And we're watching that as Brushbeater's head pops off every day when he reads something, right?
Yeah.
North Carolina is at risk. It's still a good state. Virginia's gone. I mean, there's a reason I'm no longer associated with the Commonwealth. So we'll see what happens, guys. So I am hopeful that the Chinese will sort this shit out. And by the Chinese, I don't mean the party. I mean the Canto Mafia and the Taiwanese and the diaspora. The diaspora loves the fact that there is a preeminent Han civilization, right? But they also know that they don't want to be beholden to it. So the smart ethnic Chinese will play against the PRC, but I doubt they'd ever want to move back there and be subject to the laws of the PRC. You see them with this, bringing all the academics home. They're spending millions and millions of dollars to get these academics to come home. The academics are going home because of the millions and millions and millions of dollars. But the only reason they were able to get those guys to leave the U.S. universities is because the U.S. began to cut back on free money. And that was one of the interesting things with Trump is we're losing a lot of really good thinkers who are ethnically Chinese. I get why they're leaving. It's commercial and it's also pride. But we're going to have to figure out a way to manage ethnicity without rolling it all into the you're an evil communist bauble. But the power of the party to influence ethnic Chinese is proven, right? You can't separate the two. There's got to be a new mechanism to actually weigh and manage that, and it's hard. And Trump's position on 600,000 students is untenable from a risk standpoint. So that's all I know, man.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything, Joe?
No, I think Jim pretty much covered it all in depth, as per usual.
Yeah. And Watcher, it's really good to hear you.
Hey, you too, Jim.
Sorry I didn't make it by. I had to fly on an airplane. My wife insisted. So
No, I figured honestly that's I'll be honest with you. That's that would have been a shitty drive. Um, having done it a few times.
yeah, I kind of looked. I kind of looked at the Met and said, "Okay, I'll probably get stuck in the snow on the way home." But yeah, all is good, guys. It's really nice to hear you all. Don, great to see you.
You too. Good luck with Dodgers. I never have it myself, so hopefully somebody does.
I got a race over there, man. All right, you guys be good.
Jim, looking forward to seeing you next summer.
Yeah, you betcha. Be good, guys.
Yep. All right, take care, brother. And that was Jim, as always, dropping a metric shit ton of knowledge on us, and then going, "Peace, I'm out." Drop the mic, and there he goes.
I know.
I mean, we can go back to our regularly scheduled program or go straight into China. What do you guys think? China, Japan.
We're already in China. Might as well stick.
All right, I think we just stick with it. Let's do the Japan story. Let's go in order, Watcher. We'll start with Japan. Japan might challenge China sooner than expected. I am so here for this storyline. I mean, this is, I don't know what we did to deserve the history we're getting right now, but definitely you can't say it's not interesting. So it was recently assessed that Japan would play a much bigger role in advancing the American agenda in Asia, which its new ultra-nationalist prime minister, Takaichi, has wasted no time in doing. Her first move in this direction was telling Parliament that if there are battleships and the use of force by China against Taiwan, no matter how you think about it, it could constitute a survival-threatening situation. And we talked about this, how those words are specific words that they need to use in order to articulate an external threat to Japan for use of force and deployment of force by them outside of their kind of area of self-defense, right? It says that lingo, let's say, although she didn't elaborate, her controversial logic is presumably that China's post-war control of Taiwan's semiconductor industry, provided that it survives the conflict, would lead to it coercing Japan into unilateral strategic concessions, the possibility of which fuels fear that Chinese hegemony over Asia. Takaichi then evaded answering whether or not her government will abide by the Japanese 3 non-nuclear principles of no possession of nuclear weapon, no production thereof, and no hosting of others. Well, that's interesting that she would get kind of iffy on that. The U.S. nuclear submarine deal with South Korea, which was assessed here as making it an informal member of AUKUS, was followed by reports that Japan might clinch its own deal with the U.S. In that event, maritime SDF would pose an even more formidable threat to the People's Liberation Army, Navy, or PLAN, which is my favorite name for a Navy. Than it already does. And the analysis hyperlinked to at the beginning of this one assessed the already posed a challenge to Russia per the opinion of Putin's senior aide and leading naval strategists. Recalling Japan's close defense ties with Philippines, both of which were U.S. mutual defense allies, and between whom lies Taiwan, it's clear that Japan is being empowered by the U.S. to reestablish part of its lost regional sphere of influence in order to contain China on the Asian front of the new Cold War. This parallels U.S. empowerment of Poland for containing Russia on the European front of the new Cold War through the partial reestablishment of its own lost regional sphere of influence. The larger trend is the U.S. is inciting security dilemmas along the periphery, and that it can now be described as a Sino-Russia entente, correspondingly through its mutual defense allies in Japan and Poland, who are part of the Asia's NATO-like AUKUS Plus and NATO for dividing and ruling Eurasia. What do you guys think about this? I mean, Japan's essentially been empowered by the Trump administration to kind of put its big boy pants back on.
I don't think that Japan needed to be empowered by anyone. Japan has never really been that reluctant to enforce its will, especially in the diplomatic realm. They're actually pretty darn good at it. But she is a little more forceful than most have been, except for maybe Shinzo Abe. And I don't know. I don't know that they needed our permission, but I am happy to see it because China believes they can just bully everyone who touches their sacred water, or so they think. And I think that she is doing a great thing by standing up to them. And the Chinese comments were just so ridiculous and beyond the pale that it should absolutely be challenged.
Yeah. Don, what's your take on
it? The Japanese mostly seem to, in the world of what they need for empowerment, is us to go, yeah, so we were serious when we said you're allowed to have a military after World War II. That's it. Right. It's been 5 years now or something where we said, hey, you're allowed to have a military after World War II. And just literally any equivalent of going, yeah, no, we were serious. That's actually fine. Should be plenty enough.
As far as for me, I'm just gonna say the obvious truth that their prime minister was the first one of their politicians to finally say out loud, which is, if China is allowed to breach the first island chain, Japan will have been a part of China since ancient times. That's it.
And I believe that you'll find China who will make that claim because I think they've already made some sort of a claim on Okinawa for that very thing, right? Some ancient Chinese explorer was there, just like they claim they were at Oak Island, Washington. Right?
Yeah, they literally will claim your land because they stopped for a piss break one day and got out to do it.
With absolutely no actual evidence, just we said we did. Right.
Exactly. Trust me, bro, is their evidence. Let me get back to the story here. Let's see. I just want to find the right spot here. All right. Trump 2.0 is therefore fine-tuning the Biden administration's dual containment of the Sino-Russia entente, as Russia's foreign minister Lavrov described U.S.-led West policy as being to which it's focusing more like a leading from behind in order to optimize the burden sharing. The emerging result is a return to history in a sense of former regional leaders restoring their lost spheres of influence with the U.S. support and all that entails for worsening tensions in Sino-Russian entente. China will never forget the Japanese genocide of its people during World War II, while Russia commemorates the expulsion of the Poles from Moscow in 1612 every year on the National Unity Day. Neither of these historical traumas were repeatable nowadays due to their nuclear deterrence, but the revival of the historical rivals certainly unsettles them. And though it also unites their people in the face of these U.S.-backed threats as the new Cold War continues to intensify with no end in sight. Let's be honest. I mean, while his analysis is not wrong, ultimately the best bet to have essentially a stable world is to have one side and the other side, both with nukes, sitting there looking at each other. I mean, the whole kind of offshore balancing, deterrence. I think deterrence is right is right in our wheelhouse of foreign policy and the right way to use our military, because ideally in deterrence you never use your military. It's just always the kind of the loaded gun that you've got pointed at your enemy. That's kind of like my final take on it. What say you guys before we move on? Other than, yeah, I agree.
No, I do totally agree. But I'll just say this again, that we need every nation along the Pacific Rim and along the first and second island chains to make these same kind of moves and these same kind of statements and express this sentiment. The Filipinos have always been a fiercely independent people, as long as they have America to lean on, which makes them not fiercely independent. But you know what I mean. And it can't just be them. It has to be everyone that they touch. The Vietnamese, the Indonesians, Singapore, actually, Malaysia, all these other places all need to push back on the same level that Japan and honestly Vietnam have been doing. Vietnam has always pushed back against them. So I think we need more countries to do the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Don?
I don't think I really have anything to add here.
There you go. Look at you. Man of little words.
For the record, it's still called the Empire of Japan. Might want to keep that historical note handy. So,
by the way, Watcher, I did want to. Did you say that Japan used to be part of China?
No.
No.
He didn't. He said China will make a claim that it was.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah,
is that China will suddenly have become part of China since ancient times.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, I think literally
every other place.
I think because I was just kind of when you said that I didn't know if I had heard you right, but I was thinking about the only thing you could say is that they may have given tribute at one point or another, but that was more of a leave us the fuck alone. Here's a little bit of money and fuck off type of situation.
And we're so busy raping and pillaging in Korea. We need you to leave us alone for a minute.
Right.
I think the one country that's had the most animosity with Japan throughout history is probably Korea.
Yeah, 100%. Especially in the last 500 years. I
have now seen all three of the Admiral series movies. They're all fantastic, by the way.
Admiral Yi.
Yeah.
Or Lee or V, depending on.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Oh, are we? I thought we were doing. I guess we didn't really do the story, but on opposes. Do you guys feel like we've covered enough China and Venezuela at this point with Jim's talk?
I thought so.
I think we've covered plenty of China.
Well, we've got a couple. We got two more stories. Well, actually, one more story. How Trump's absence marks leadership opportunity with China, the G20. This is interesting, right? Trump is basically. This is as much a Trump G20 story as it is about China. He's basically like, I don't care. I ain't going. I don't want to go to South Africa. That place is a shithole. I just think it's funny. How Trump's absence marks leadership opportunity for China at the G20. U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to snub the G20 in South Africa this year has handed an opportunity to China as it seeks to expand growing influence in the African continent and position itself as an alternative to the dangers of unilateral United States. You know, the problem with this, Joe, is that everybody in Africa knows what China has to offer. And it's getting to the point where don't trust men from China bearing money, or bearing promises, essentially, is becomes the old African wisdom at this point. I don't know that China has got a lot of new friends to make in Africa. I mean, they got old friends because they own them, like in Uganda.
Well, China does it through exporting arms, right? And they've got an arms plant in Sudan. That is sort of their lead piece of diplomacy. Oh, you want a whole bunch of AKs? Take our copy of it. And by the way, we're going to give it to you at a really good price, but you also just have to do this, this, and this for us. That's the way they get you.
Yeah. Well, right. There's a lot of strings, like a lot. So everybody in the beginning, Joe, like they used to say, oh, well, everybody wants to do the deal with China because unlike America, there's no strings attached to the money. They just say, we want to get the minerals. You got the minerals. We'll give you a bunch of money. And that's the deal, right? That's what everybody naively thought of these Chinese Belt and Road Initiative deals. But now that they saw essentially they start taking possession of national assets when you don't pay, fuck you, pay me. They're worse than mob collectors. and if you don't pay them, then they will repo your national infrastructure. I think you heard stories of them like demolishing like roads and things like that when the mine was finished if they didn't pay for the road or whatever. I don't know that that's very widespread, but it kind of brings an interesting kind of like picture there. All right, let me get back to it. Where was I? I fucking closed it. All right, here we go. Let's see. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, one of the dumbest politicians in the world, claimed that the hosting summit in Johannesburg was a total disgrace. Boycott politics don't work, Ramaphosa said, adding that the U.S. was giving up the very important role that they should be playing as the biggest economy in the world. By Friday morning, what's funny?
I'm sorry. It's one of those backward things. It's like, oh,
right.
Well, you didn't come to the G20. That means you're not one of the most 20 important nations. No, if America's not there, the G20's fucking pointless.
Right. That's exactly right.
Well, just prior to this, there was that statement that says widely discredited claims that whites are mistreated in South Africa. Discredited by whom? It is literally a fact.
It's literally a fact.
They are killing farmers simply because they're white.
The interesting thing here is they're saying, oh, Trump is snubbing the G20. Yet they don't mention that Xi is also snubbing the G20. He's sending some lackey, Premier Li Qiang, to represent him on the world stage. China's 72-year-old president has dialed back foreign visits, increasingly delegating his top emissary. So you mean he's blowing off the G20? I mean, no, we may not even be sending a delegation at all. I mean, if we are sending a delegation, then China and U.S. are both doing the exact same thing. But because China is not the biggest economy in the world, nobody complains when Xi doesn't come, Joe. Let's see. Jingu, a political economist at the UK-based Institute for the Development Studies, said the U.S.'s failure to attend does not automatically make China the new leader, but it creates a visible space for China to present itself as a more stable, reliable partner in governance. It reinforces the perception that the U.S. is stepping back from multilateralism. Well, they are. I mean, in this context, China can present itself as a more predictable, stable actor and emphasize continuity, support for open trade, and engagement. Has anybody ever used those words before to describe China? Stable, predictable?
No.
I mean... Well, they are predictable that anytime you make a comment about them, oh, stay out of our internal workings, you know.
Yeah.
South Africa, which holds G20 presidency, is expected to push for consensus action on priority issues for African countries, including debt relief, economic growth, climate change, and transition to clean energy. Until you change the culture of business in these countries, you're never going to see anything. You know, that's the thing that Jim mentioned, and I think the thing that I fear is essentially the reason why these people live in places like London in order to operate businesses in Nigeria is because they've had it. They've bought. It's like, listen, I don't want to live in a world that has the culture that I came from, right? Like, I want to live in the Western culture. I want to live in a Western country, you know. That's what these people want. Now, the problem is UK is quickly turning into a Middle Eastern country. So, you know, unless as the status quo ante stands now, America will only be the last Western country standing. But who knows? Pinochet's helicopter tours for $2 says, along with the Japanese military language, they are also fighting back against the West culturally. Recently protected their art and media by ordering Western ideology out. Are we talking about Japan? I don't know that they're ordering Western ideology out. I think they're... I think what they're getting rid of is a lot of the PC stuff. Yeah, the woke and PC stuff. China as a bastion of multilateralism. That's one of the subheadlines further down the story. I'm not going to read that though. All right, gentlemen. So we missed our shameless profit taking segment of the show. Joe, you want to talk a little bit about tactical-wisdom.com?
I do. I put out an article last night about changing over to your winter gear. It's important. You should do it, and use it as an opportunity to check dates on all your food and batteries and all your devices, and pull out all your radios and keep them charged, because you never know. You never know. So get in and go through your stuff. Change out your camo. Buy some leg gaiters. Learn what those are and wear them. So pretty good article. So head on over to tactical-wisdom.com and check that out. We do have a winter survival class coming up in just a couple weeks, December 13th and 14th. And then in January, we'll have a couple more classes going on before we get right into the full swing of 2026. But the one thing I want to talk about on every show, and I want everyone to put on their calendar as you're planning out your year, is Mountain Readiness West. We're bringing the Mountain Readiness Expo to Montana. It'll be July 24th through the 26th right here at Camp Ponderosa. Camp right on site. No need to go anywhere else. By the way, going anywhere else will take you a ridiculously long time, so you might as well just stay here and hang out with us. We're going to have classes. We're going to have all kinds of cool hands-on things to do, and lots more people that have been at previous events. So it's going to be a great, great time. T and the guys are working on a website where you can learn what all is going to be there. A lot of big names are coming this time, so it's going to be very, very cool. Put it on the schedule. Also, the weekend before that, July 18th and 19th, the boys from War Lizard Tactical, Joel Drink Your Water Gaines, and his son will be up here teaching a defensive pistol class. It's going to be very, very cool. And we're going to fill that week in between with classes here on site. So in theory, you could take a week, get a War Lizard class, maybe get a K from Combat Studies ground rod class in, and maybe a fieldcraft class. All kinds of good stuff. We're going to throw them all the way around. I believe Matt's coming as well. So there's going to be a lot going on. Get on that.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome, man. I'm looking forward to that. And ladies and gentlemen, yes, Joe has he's forcing me to write a bio and to because I will be there as far as I know.
I haven't beat up on Mr. Workman too much about it, but he knows it's coming. And I heard
one of these years, I will get back to classes.
I heard something from Mr. Workman about a cook-off of Italian sausage and peppers between him and Mrs. Tactical Wisdom. So that'd be the great venue for that. We could get lots of judges, and we shall see.
Indeed, we shall see.
I've committed to the skill that I want to learn when I finally come back to the States and have a place of my own to do all those things that dads do in the backyard. Is I want to get a smoker and I want to learn how to make good brisket.
Well, hey, Camp Ponderosa literally has 4 smokers around the property. So great place to start learning is here.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to being able to take advantage of.
Me and Yogi are going to be smoking some elk ribs. So that sounds delicious, and we're going to be doing that. So. One last thing on that. Tactical Wisdom books make great, fantastic Christmas presents. Order them.
That's true. Especially a whole set of them.
Especially a whole set. I mean, nothing says I love you and want you to live like Tactical Wisdom.
So on a very related note, a problem I have never had before, but have had very recently, Joe is not Blaine. And Blaine is not Joe. Now, this might seem silly, but somebody asked me about Joe, who wrote the Blue Dawn series the other day.
We get this all the time. Like me and Mark get mixed up, and Me and Matt get mixed up a lot. People are like, man, I love your Baofeng book. I'm like, oh, it's so awesome to hear, but it's not mine.
Right.
Oh, see,
Speaking of Blaine, we have the Pure Blood patch here, and
yeah,
Blue
look
Dawn
at that.
6 is coming out. That will feature the Pure Bloods.
The Pure Bloods.
So good stuff.
And Captain Dolio as the commander of the Pure Bloods.
I just have to say that if any confusion is warranted, it might be that one. See, Joe's didn't write those books. Joe is in those books.
That's not fair. Joe is in basically all of these books.
Well, that's true. Actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, but still is the only one who keeps killing me. So
yeah.
Hey, while we're in shameless plug mode, I want to do two quick ones, right, for the homies. This is the new crossbody bag by Silent. It has a Faraday pouch here on the back for your phone, and on the inside you can carry all of your various and assorted junk. But this is an RFID blocking one. Your credit cards can go in there. It's a really cool bag. I'm not one of those guys who wears a crossbody bag, but they sent me one, and I'm going to throw it in a backpack. So anyway, cool thing there. And the other one is 5-star alterations. You know, they make those wool ponchos. They also make non-wool ponchos, just camouflage cover. And this one is in Rhodesian brushstroke. So
Look at you.
Cool stuff. It's called the Gorilla Poncho. Good stuff, man.
I can't wait until you announce that new product that you're going to be modeling here in the near future.
It's a secret, but it's going to be good.
I'm just saying.
It's going to be good.
Just while you may or may not believe this, you all want to see Joe modeling this product.
Yes. This is true. This is true. And I think the tagline works. I think it's going to be very cool. So I'm always trying to help other dudes get their products out. So
all right. Let's see. Let me do the Brush Beater shameless profit center advertisement. All right. Tonight we're exposing the scourge of communism creeping through America and China's growing aggression on the world stage. In an uncertain world where ideologies clash and power rises, preparation is your anchor. Enter our sponsor, Brush Beater Store, led by NC Scout, aka Matt, with training and gear to keep you steady no matter what comes. In times of ideological erosion and global posturing, Brush Beater's RTO course provides secure comms to maintain your network when the systems falter and tension spike. Advancing with the RTO course, mastering signals intel, electronic warfare to stay informed in a world of shifting alliances. The Tactical Combat Casualty Care Course, or TCCC, equips you to handle medical emergencies swiftly and ready whenever uncertainty brings. And for reliable sighting when visibility matters, the Kyber Optics MDO offers a close emitter red dot with shake awake and 50,000 hour battery life, built tough for any environment. Train and equip in Brush Beater's Yanceyville, North Carolina facility, or visit the Brush Beater .store/collection/training or collection/optics. Use code CSC10 for 5% off courses, optics, medical care, or gear. Orders over $100 shipped for free. Big thanks to Matt at Brush Beater Store for backing Counts on Future Conflict. Head on to brushbeater.store, enter code CSC10, and stay prepared in an uncertain world. All right, back to the show. Gentlemen, let's do our first topic last. Here we go. And that is socialism is bad, okay? Now, just in case you guys don't know, and I know the council knows this, but I mean, I feel like I have to bring on board somebody who might catch the show for the first time. And I thought this article did a good job of kind of making sure people understand socialism is a political doctrine, not just an economic one. And the difference between communism and socialism is how you get to the exact same place. They're essentially the same thing. They just have different paths, right? Doctrine of Socialism. This is by Andy Williamson from the Mises Institute. So if you're an anti-Mises guy, you're probably, You must be a communist if you like this. If you disagree with this article, the doctrines of socialism have been with us for more than 150 years, but no one had really tried in a total way until the advent of the Soviet Union from the 1920s to the 1990s. During this period, a number of communist socialist revolutions occurred in Asia and Cuba and Africa, all of which provided a laboratory to observe how these socialist economies would perform. The socialist economies failed spectacularly, of course. As Mises had predicted, his works on socialism, published in the 1920s and in 1923, showed that as an economic system, it's doomed before it was ever implemented because it had no practical system of economic calculation. Despite the propaganda beamed at people from both socialist governments and the Western media, the socialist economies were lifting vast numbers of people out of poverty. The reality was that socialism was what Mises had predicted. By 1989, even diehard socialists admitted that socialism had been a huge failure. Indeed, by the mid-1990s, the only countries attempting to continue the socialist experiment were Cuba and North Korea, and neither economy was one to be envied. Let's see. Heilbronner, a noted communist, said, "The Soviet Union, China, and Eastern Europe has given us the clearest possible proof that capitalism organizes the material affairs of humankind much more satisfactorily than socialism. That, however, in inequality or irresponsibility the marketplace may distribute goods, it does so better than the cues of planned economy. The great question now seems how rapid will be the transformation of socialism into capitalism and not the other way around, as things looked over a half a century ago." So basically, like, this is a communist agreeing that capitalism had won. Yet Heilbronner, echoing Joseph Schumpeter's belief that capitalism could not survive in the modern age, was not convinced that a capitalist economy would do well under cultural and political assaults coming from the academic, social, and government elites, and that it would always demand more from it than it could produce. Heilbronner admits that Mises was right, that socialist economy lacked the necessary economic calculations. Today, we see that poverty, prices of goods, increasing housing shortages in New York City, or high food prices, and usual suspects blame capitalism, and the blame what has become the overriding symbol of capitalism, the billionaire. The irony, guys, is that, I mean, this is my commentary on this highlighted, bolded statement here. Is that ultimately that's failing in the areas that have the most socialist policies, i.e., democratic cities, democratic states. You know, I'll pause to breathe here to let you guys weigh in on this. What do you guys think of this so far?
Communism sucks, bro.
Amen.
Socialism sucks just a little less, but it still sucks.
There's two
Don, this is your
conversations.
wheelhouse.
Yeah, there's two conversations being had here, and they're both trying to be had at the same time without anybody acknowledging that either one is being had. Right? There's just some abstract discussion of, but who better? And that's not actually how this works. And if you don't believe that, there is currently, right now, a rather large segment of society who's like, well, you know what? Stalin's fine as long as we can stop transing the kids. Right. And look, that's love that or loathe that, it is there. And so whether or not in some existential, entirely third party discussion, one is, quote, better than the other, this is not going to be a viable discussion of what we're doing in the future. Right. It's pretty well impossible to determine that any of the socialistic or communistic methods of governance, or religion for that matter, because it is also that, are economically better than capitalistic free trade type things. Big problem that everybody's having. NAFTA plus regulate the hell out of the American economy is being called free trade. And the reality is, whether you like it or not, that whether or not Americans make better products, which definitively at least used to be true, and since basically nobody is making products anymore, we have no idea. The simple reality now is that I want to buy mountains of cheap crap is superseding quality discussions on basically every front. Again, you don't have to like this, but it's true. Any number of people, in fact, pick literally any product that you want, cars, tools, guns, right? Wherever it is that you have some sort of entertainment, there's somebody telling you that a Honda Civic with a supercharger is just as good as a Ferrari, or a High Point is just as good as, I don't know, whoever makes quality guns these days, Daniel Defense or whatever, or your home built AR with Lone Star or whatever it is, right? Your Heart tool from Walmart is just as good as Milwaukee, and there is some truth to that if you don't actually use whatever you're talking about, right? If you're a guy who does home repairs once every 3 years, yeah, Hart tools are just as good as Milwaukee. If you're a guy who uses your tools on a daily basis, Hart tools are going to break in 2 weeks, and the Milwaukees are going to last you 5 years. The Milwaukees are worth it, but we can't have these kinds of discussions anymore. We have absolutely destroyed our capability to talk seriously about pretty much anything. And what is that going to lead to? A discussion of which is the shortest term benefit to me, right? And what does that sound like, regardless of what practical application, Mises, or any number of other economic discussions are? Well, rent's too high, so the government is going to tell me that rent is frozen. Now, we all know what happens when you freeze rent, or at least we should, because every single time it's been tried anywhere in the world, the exact same thing has happened. But that doesn't matter if all you can see is the end of your nose and that you feel like you're oppressed or displaced or whatever it is right now. You want someone to come by and say, we're going to fix all things. And whether anybody likes it or not, we're about as close as we have ever in all of American history been to the youth vote being a real thing. Which is to say, you could absolutely, for the last 250 years, say, yeah, okay, the youth vote thinks that, I don't know, communism is the greatest idea since sliced bread, but also 4% of them vote, so who cares, right? And right now, the thing that they're going to vote for the most is to burn it all down. Again, you don't have to like this, but burn it all down is the single point of agreement. Hey, we're going to have the boob. Hey, we can throw, the Constitution has no remedy for X problem. Now, by the way, the people who are saying that, the thing that they universally have in common is they don't know what the Constitution says. And I know that because every single time one of them says this, I go, but the remedy's right there. What are you talking about? But it doesn't matter anymore, right? Because now the only thing that everybody agrees on is burn it all down. That's it. Anything else, like, yeah, that sounds gay, that's a boomer topic, blah, 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 whatever it is. Doesn't matter what you're saying. It doesn't matter what the realities of the situation are. So, yeah, okay, communism burns countries to the ground, which makes it most likely that that's what we're going to get.
One of the things, I think this is actually an important point, right? And I'm gonna split the middle here on this one. So the Saran says, I actually do disagree with some of the verbiage here. Capitalism is a communist propaganda term. I would prefer free market economy. Well, here's the thing, right?
There's a reason I said both.
Well, yeah. Well, so capitalism wasn't used until like the mid 1800s, right? And guess when Marx started writing things? Well, the mid 1800s, right? Now, he wasn't the guy who coined the term. I think it came from a French dude, but I can't remember. But he sure picked it up and he ran with it. And so it's just like mercantilism, who, like Adam Smith kind of popularized the term mercantilism. When people use something to criticize a different system, they have to call it something, right? And so until then, until somebody criticizes something, it's just the economy, right? It's literally the only thing that we've got going. Now we've got multiple economic kind of terminologies for things, right? But we kind of push pause on the article before we get into the fact that this is not necessarily communism is not a real, or socialism isn't an economic system. It's a political system. So this is kind of a good point for me to jump back into that argument. All right. Today, when we see poverty prices and increasing housing shortages in New York City or high food prices, let's see. This has become the overriding symbol of capitalism, the billionaire. That's who they blame, right? Because it's happening in a capitalist system. This does not matter that the housing problems are caused by rent control or other supply restricting government interventions. By the way, if you restrict the supply of something, the price goes fucking through the roof. Or if you don't allow the price to move, then what ends up happening, you have shortages. Let's see. Despite socialism's many failure as an economic system, it's more popular than ever as a political system, declares the socialist publication, The Jacobin. For socialists, establishing popular confidence in the feasibility of a socialist society is now an existential challenge. Without a renewal and grounded belief in the possibility of the goal, it's near impossible to imagine reviving and sustaining the project. This, it needs emphasis, isn't a matter of proving that socialism is possible. The future can't be verified, nor of laying out a thorough blueprint as projecting capitalism before its arrival. Such details can't be known, but the presenting a framework that contributes to making a case for socialism's plausibility. And so that just kind of lays it out. Like, that's what they want. They just want people to see that socialism is an option. Let's say the article goes on. In other words, socialists don't need to be successful in actually producing goods and services and ensuring people receive them. Instead, it just needs for them to be promised those things, right? So, like, it's not what we can do today; it's what we promise tomorrow, and it turns into the big lie. And when tomorrow never comes, eventually the damage is already done.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't want to keep reading the Jacobin stuff here. Today, the socialisms not only have captured the mayor's office in New York City, but also Seattle, where yet another so-called democratic socialist won by emulating Mondami's affordability campaign in New York. And the movement looks to capture the Democratic Party. It will absolutely capture. I mean, that's the way that, instead of going back to common sense, middle of the road politics that could potentially win the Democrats, the country, they're going to go the socialist route, which, while it will gain hold in certain areas, maybe even some purple states, like what we've seen happen in Virginia, it will never win the country over, and will probably lead to the Civil War but faster than anything else. Let's see.
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead, Don.
How is this going to take over the Democrat Party in the future? By what method would you come to the conclusion?
Is a better word. I think capture is a better word.
Well, okay, fine. How is it going to capture the Democratic Party in the future?
It already has.
It has today. Yeah, it already has.
This is not viable, right? You can start this basically wherever you want. Carter, Clinton. Less so than Carter, but definitively Obama. You can go back to Wilson, as I often do.
Yeah, I think they were flirting with it, throughout the 20th century, but ultimately Obama was both feet in the socialist mold.
Well, exactly right, and so my primary problem with this is we have this problem in this country of just wishful thinking, right? Like, oh, well, we've still got time before we have an opposition that thinks it's a good idea to put you in camps and kill you because of socialism. I don't know when that time was, but it is past, right? And again, argue the start whenever you want. We're here.
One of the things that I think is important to realize is this. So this is a kind of a long quote, but I want to read it because it goes to the kind of the intellectual dishonesty about what people are complaining about in a capitalist system versus, say, a socialist system. In his account of the mechanics of self-deception, Professor Hollander makes an effective use of the concept of contextual redefinition. By this, he means the way that activities are transformed by their context, so that what is detestable in one society becomes uplifting in another. Thus, the left-wing intellectual feels that any society based on state ownership, whatever its superficial flaws, is essentially good. Any society based on private ownership, whatever its superficial flaws, is essentially corrupt. The poverty represents a shameful failure in capitalism, but when associated with egalitarianism and the subordination of material to spiritual needs, it expresses a simple, uncorrupted way of life. Manual labor is demeaning under capitalism, ennobling under communism. Child labor is abominable in the United States, but in Cuba, the sight of a child working 15 hours a week in the field is symbolic of a high and unified purpose. As Angela Davis once said, the job of cutting cane has become the qualitative difference since the revolution. Contextually redefined, Professor Hollander writes, also produce euphoric response to objects, sites, and institutions in themselves unremarkable, and also to be found in the visitor society. There is something about a Russian train standing at a station that thrills, wrote Waldo Frank. The title, Little Locomotive is Human, the Dingy Cars Are Human. So, I mean, this kind of perverse, just this goes back to the whole idea. If you do it, it's murder. If we do it, it's, purging undesirables from the society. I mean, and communism's rife with it. It's literally the modus operandi of communism is doing all the things in a worse way but because we do it under some sort of a collective, better, greater good, it's for your own good, right? Or the people who make the choice, are thinking about all of us versus individuals being able to make their own mind.
I don't know why this is a surprise. Take a look around you, wherever you go. One of my favorite examples of this is that there is a sign for a local bank where I live that is advertising a loan, right? And that's it. It's the bank, and that we give out loans. And it says, we care about your dreams. Does anyone actually believe this? And the answer is, of course, yes, somebody does. They want people who care. What the hell does care mean? Does that mean that I'm going to give you a zero interest loan? No, of course, that's not what it means. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
We're not doing that. The bank can't make any money if they give you a zero interest loan. But it's very important that they care. Somebody is going to give you a smile and a handshake and say super nice things to you as they give you a loan that would be called predatory any other day of the week, right? Yeah, here's your 25% interest credit card. Thank God you can now go buy stupid things any given day of the week. Hooray! We've all got a better life now. Because if you just strap the word care to whatever you're doing, then everybody's happy for some reason. This is the methodology of a child, but it's still where we are. And you can love that or loathe that all you want, but what is it that Democrat politicians say every single day on stage? Oh, we care about you. We feel for you very much. This abstract discussion of feelings and how it should sate every problem that you have in the world is the one ruling the day. And that right there, whether anybody likes it or not, is exactly how you get the Lenin who cares about the people a lot, Stalin, who is the strong man making sure that his country is carried forward. By the way, Kim Jong-un, who all of the Korean propaganda on this subject is him putting jackets over the late night working Korean to make sure that they are taken care of while they are performing their labors for the nation. All of this stuff is exactly the same everywhere. And all it really takes is a little bit of nihilism in everyday people of whatever country you're talking about, where they don't see that anything is ever going to get better for any reason. And then for somebody to come by and say some nice hollow words that sound good. And that's exactly where we're at.
Yeah, that's a good point that you just bring up, Don. The regular normies in the street don't have to be communists. They just need to be nihilistic enough to go along with whatever the people who are passionate about are willing to go along with.
Yeah.
Just as a kind of an exit quote for this, and then I'll get your guys' final thoughts on this before we move on. This is a Thomas Sowell quote. It's usually futile to try to talk facts and analysis to people who are enjoying a sense of moral superiority in their ignorance, which is exactly what we find on the left. Like the modern left today is literally people reveling in their total ignorance, but a moral righteousness associated to it.
I don't think this problem is restricted to the left in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it was at some point. But this problem is pretty universal, right?
Yeah, well, that's. But it's. I think it is. It is something that is universally present in all people who love socialism or communism.
Only at a propaganda layer, right? At the, your Joe on the street. Yes, absolutely, 100%. This is what they care about. This is the way that it is. Deal with it. The people who have been methodically disassembling the American government for the past century, I got a hard time accepting that they just believe in my feelings over facts, right? It's pretty much impossible to set up the CPFB or whatever the hell that thing is called, Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, and then run Operation Choke Point if the only thing that you care about is my feelings, right? And part of the problem that we of the right have is that we expect the Obamas of the world, whoever was running Joe Biden's presidency, to only care about, my feelings over facts. But the reality is they enact policies that get what they want. They create whole systems dedicated to producing what they want. It doesn't matter who you put in charge of Operation Choke Point. In the end, the left will get what they want out of it. There's no possible way to start canceling huge sections of society at a governmental level without those sections of society going, well, I guess we need the government's help. Yeah. You can't lose. Now, if you can tell me that was designed by people who were like, oh, but it just feels good to cancel hookers, right? Because that was the original primary target of Operation Choke Point, followed by gun stores and check cashing, right? You can tell me that, but I have a hard time accepting that somehow or another they just magically felt their way into something that was a no-lose situation for them. That seems horrifically unlikely.
Yeah, I take your point about this man in the street, but the shot callers, I think, are they're kind of always in on it. The people who are in on the joke, they expect to be on a kind of a higher plane, even though it's like, hey, we're saying everybody's the same, but really, like, they're all the same, and we're gonna be better
special.
Off. Yeah, exactly right. And there's always a ruling elite in all of these systems.
Well, that's always the case, right? You can't have a command economy, which is what socialism is in hypothetical preparation for communism, right? But you can't have a command economy if somebody isn't smart enough to command the economy. It's just a baked-in assumption. You have to have it. Because if what you said to yourself is no person is smart enough to run every single transaction of a whole country, you would take one look at socialism and go, well, that's dumb, right? Which, by the way, is what the Souls and the Mises and basically everybody is doing. And they're not wrong to do it. They are factually correct. No one is smart enough to run every transaction of an economy, right? And the argument from the socialists is, well, we're not running every transaction. We're just running most of them, right? We are smart enough to say that housing shouldn't cost more than X. We know, X is a moving target, but whatever. We're smart enough to know that. And the thing is, once you've got people, and you do, right? For anyone who hasn't been paying attention to Anti-Pattern's crusade to say you could buy a house if you wanted one, which, by the way, if there is anything that gets down to the cockles of my heart, it is watching somebody else besides me spend days or weeks going like, look, dude, this is possible. You just don't want the houses you can afford. and you don't want to give up the lifestyle that would permit you to afford more than what you can currently afford. And that's true, but it doesn't matter if it's true if no one believes it, right? Who cares? Okay, fine. I hypothetically could afford a house, but I'm not gonna.
Well, it's like if you want a big house, then you're gonna have to pay big money. If you want the house you can afford, you may have to tempt some of your wants. It's the whole needs versus want. At what point do you? And by the way, if you want to live in Manhattan, you better be a fucking millionaire, because you got to be a millionaire to live in Manhattan. If you're not a millionaire, then you can't live there. It's just that's just the system that we have.
Well, and the argument, whether anybody likes it or not, again, is that this isn't the system we should have.
Right.
And this is an unimaginable success from even 30 years ago for the left. Right. And the thing is, again, you don't have to like this, but there is plenty of, quote, the right who is happy to tell you, like, well, yeah, the left is correct on economics. Right. Now, you think whatever you want of that, but if a huge portion of the right is going to agree that the left is correct on economics, guess what's going to happen? The people who want houses are going to go, well, who cares if the left is wrong about some other things? I need a house to raise a family. Right. And that's where, people are going to go. I don't like that. You don't have to like that. But there is a huge portion of the country who thinks this way. Now, here's to hoping, as we have for 50 generations, that they grow out of it before they, in fact, are a majority voting bloc. But right at the moment, they're just going harder, which is not a good sign.
Yeah. Well, let's be honest. There is something. I think the social contract has been breached with enough young people to where they think that the answer is people like Mondami, right? I mean, that's specifically women for whatever reason, right? Real quick, I keep saying that we're all at threat by the greatest threat to America has ever seen, and that's woke white women, and maybe just white women in general. But
I mean, you can stand on that if you want, but we rather recently had an election decided by a African tribal conflict.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how we got here. Maybe we should all be upset that that's how we got here, but we are now here. Whether you want to be here or not, we are here. And here involves that we have imported enough people and concentrated them enough that they are now saying, well, look, the reality is we control this space, so we're going to go back to doing what we've always been doing. Now, you can tell me that, and in any number of ways you might be right, America is better at assimilating people than anyone else on the planet. But the methodology by which America assimilated people was to go, okay, a bunch of you can come in. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to stop now. We're not going to let you take over whole cities and turn them into some other nation as like a micronation within the United States. And this has happened all the way back to the founding of the country. There was a time when Fifth Street in New York was called the Bloody Fifth, and that was exclusively because the Irish came in huge numbers, took over the entirety of Fifth Street in New York, and the only thing that you could do on Fifth Street in New York is fight a drunk guy or get stabbed. Okay, that's it. And then we said, okay, that's enough. We've got a problem now. We're not going to do this anymore. And we closed the borders. And guess what? Over the course of about a century, everybody sort of found their place. Now, where did the Irish find their place? There's a reason that huge quantities of politicians are Irish, because the Irish came over here under political persecution, and the thing that they found that they could do was band together, get their own politician in charge, and say, hey, look out for the Irish. Now, you don't have to like that, but it's true. There's a reason that Joseph Robinette Biden spent 50 years in politics, right? And it's not because the Irish didn't create a system where they did this. You don't have to like it, but it is true. When they come over and assimilate, presuming that they do, they bring over some of who they were. This should be pretty obvious. Assimilation is not, we're going to wipe you and turn you into a blank page and then write America on it.
If something you bring over is of value, then we will in turn also assimilate that as well. And I think that's how it works.
We decided not to do this.
Yeah, right. No, you're that's it. I don't want to get too bogged down on this, but I think it's important for people just to remember what the threat is, right? That we're facing, because these people who are perpetrating the fraud on the American people right now, they are very aware of this. They know what they want. Yeah. Right. This is not just kind of like, oh, well, we just want more free stuff. This is like, we want control. We want power. It is all about the power dynamic, especially since, we're dealing not with traditional Marxism, but more neo-Marxism. The thing that I wanted to kind of hit on here as a kind of an exit before we move on, white women are susceptible to liberal brainwashing. They aren't responsible for it. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? If I had to guess on a reason why specifically white women are more susceptible than any other group is, first of all, they are the ones that emotional arguments work better on women than men. Emotional arguments work better than logical arguments in general, but they work more effectively on women than men. That being said, white women have more collective guilt than any other group because the men generally don't care and don't feel guilty about anything that they do, much less things that happened 200 years ago. But women are a little different, right? And so because they are very social and collective, like if somebody says, don't you feel bad about that? Oh yeah, I feel bad about that. What are we talking about? Oh, it's terrible. You know what I mean? I don't know how many times I've heard women admit to me, like, yeah, I felt bad and I didn't even know what I had done. And that's just in basic social situations. If you extrapolate this on a society-wide, it makes sense that white women would be the single most likely group to affect it. Anyway, I didn't want to go on a tirade against white women or anything there because I find them beautiful and the future of America. That being said, get your act together, white women. All right, we've gone 2 hours 37 minutes. I want to close this out as a 1-2 punch with these last two stories. The first story will be Miller, Democrats are the third world party and they want an insurrection. And the things that they are doing as evidence to that is the 2 punch. We want to speak directly to members of the military and the intelligence community. So let me just say the first story has several Stephen Miller kind of sound bites in it, and we don't have to listen to all of these. But I just say that Stephen Miller sometimes I can like mainline him directly into my veins with some of the things that he goes off about. Sometimes he's a little hot in he goes hard in the paint, but it's hard for me to argue with him when he's on a roll. Let me just kind of do the intro, and then Watcher will do like the first clip here because it goes directly to the military and the orders and stuff like that, and then we'll watch the clip that he's referring to. All right, so senior Trump advisor Stephen Miller has unleashed a blistering tirade during the Fox News interview, accusing Democrats of inciting insurrection by urging the CIA and armed forces to defy President Trump's order, demanding their resignation and labeling the party a third world entity obsessed with power through any means. It kind of gets back to that whole idea of power is what's really important for them. So let's play this first clip here, Watcher, because this is the one where he's.
I don't know if Watcher's still here.
Well, he was here earlier.
Yeah, based on that side chat, this one's on you, buddy.
Oh, I'm crashing. Oh yeah. I didn't even say. Well, I don't.
That's why we have a side chat. I'm just throwing that out there.
I know but it's hard. It's hard to walk and chew bubble gum sometimes. All right, I don't need him because I can do it.
Are you big, strong fish that don't need no bicycle?
That's right. I don't need no. All right, here we go.
Directly, without question. You say lengthy cross-examination. A single so-called illegal order, it just proves the point. It's a general call for rebellion from the CIA and the armed services of the United States by Democrat lawmakers saying that you have not only the right, but the duty and the obligation to defy orders of the commander-in-chief, that those who carry weapons in America's name should defy their chain of command and engage in open acts of insurrection, that the CIA, the clandestine service, which isn't even legally authorized to operate in the United States, should engage in, again, acts of rebellion and insurrection. These lawmakers should honestly resign in disgrace and never return to public office again for even daring to think, let alone to say these words and to say them proudly. But it shows what a dangerous moment we're in.
All right, that's the key point that I wanted to get from him. And then let me pull up the other one, and we'll watch the senators or congressmen or communists or whatever they are. And then we'll do that, and then we will open it up, because I have things I want to say, but I'm going to let both of you speak for me.
Uh-oh.
Former paratrooper and Army.
All right, here we go.
Senator Alyssa Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow.
I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community.
Thank God no Marines.
Each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, the threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal order.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law
or our Constitution.
We know this is hard,
and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
the Army,
our Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you.
We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
Now, they say the if you're a member of the CIA, the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy, here I guess they just assume that all you Marines are war criminals already. So I mean, just write the Marines off.
Marines are incorruptible, my friend.
Therein is the discussion.
Gentlemen, I will turn it over to you to comment on this.
Encouraging the disobeying of orders violates both the UCMJ and 18 United States Code 2387 sedition. So the fact that they all did it together shows that it's a seditious conspiracy, and that's a problem. They can say whatever they want about, no, it's perfectly fine to protest illegal orders. They weren't actually talking about illegal orders. They're talking about it in general. They don't define what orders Donald Trump has given that are illegal. They haven't.
No.
Yeah. And there's a reason for that, because he hasn't given any. They're just trying to foment some sort of a conflict back and forth. And they're going to do it however they want to. I believe, though, that this was bait to get exactly the reaction they got out of Donald Trump, so they'd go around and screech. I will remind you that everyone who is screeching about, oh my God, this is Donald Trump wants to do this and he wants to kill these people. He didn't say that. He simply said that's the punishment for this crime. And these people wanted to prosecute Donald Trump for a far more mild statement that he made on January 6th. So their outrage is fake.
Yeah. Don?
So that's entirely it. We're trotting out the propaganda that is, we found 3 JAG guys or 6 JAG, whatever it is, a handful of JAG lawyers who said, oh, this is all illegal. And now we're all very excited that it's all illegal for some reason. And so because there is some suggestion at all that this is illegal, what we should be doing is no longer prosecuting a war on, the cartels, right? You know, and there's, you can argue a lot of this if you want. I would, and while not a legal document, I will happily just cite the Marine Corps hymn. You know, the shores of Tripoli was not something where we went to Congress and went, hey, is it okay if we don't let all these guys over here in Africa just kill a bunch of Americans? We went, okay, you're not killing Americans anymore. Shut up. Right. So, yeah, from the founding of the country, we didn't think this sort of thing was a good idea. We were perfectly happy to tell these people to pound sand. But now, it's super duper illegal. And mostly what this represents is judicial worship, which is not a good thing, but it's a thing we do a lot. So have fun with that. We're going to end up with probably what amounts to Civil War type talk or activity based almost exclusively on those kinds of problems. But what are you going to do?
Yeah, this will either snowball or it won't. And if it starts a snowball, what you put here, well, this is the one you responded to, and then I'll put your tweet is. The Cody M says, I'm anxiously awaiting PFC Schmuckatelli catching an Article 92 it's an Article 15 for Article 92 violation of the UCMJ. For telling his team leader he won't wash his nasty ass because some retarded politicians wanted to simp for clout and commit sedition. But Sergeant, the congressman on TikTok told me I have to disobey an illegal order, and that's illegal. And then, of course, Don, he says, only if you know this PFC, he's going to do it. You can get video of his, and you damn well know you need to post that video, even if you have to blur the post after you get out. Don, the thing that if anything, I talked to an individual today who said the fact that they weren't specific about what orders are illegal actually protects them more. And I actually said, if anything, I think it actually opens them up to a broader kind of complaint against them, because they're basically saying, well, I'm not saying what orders are illegal or illegal, but you have to figure out which orders are illegal, and you have to decide which ones you're not going to follow. And it's your duty to do this, right? And so thus, they're putting a very broad swath of people potentially looking for illegal orders all over the place, right? And then what happens when a large number of people at the same time decide not to follow the chain of command? It's a mutiny, right? I mean, so essentially what they're doing is in this broad political sense, they're opening themselves up to, well, why did you guys commit mutiny? Well, because we saw the senators on TikTok tell us.
Well, so that's not going to fall on the people who made that video, right? It is indeed going to be PFC Schmuckatelli that pays that price.
It's all a false premise because he's a Lance Corporal, not a PFC.
There is that.
Well, no Lance Corporal, whatever. No, this is the reason why they didn't address the Marines is because they know the Lance Corporal will never listen to them anyway, right?
That is part of the problem.
Schmuckatelli is not going to go. Yeah. I got you.
Anyway,
so again, I think you guys are having two different discussions there, right? So, for political critique, they have gotten themselves more of a problem with, the people like you and me going like, oh, lol, you just said, unlawful orders, like that means something. And that's true. But in the world of, is this legally actionable? Probably not. Almost exclusively because they didn't say what is or is not a problem, right? If you said this is an illegal order and you need to ignore it, then you could, pretty clearly take these people to any number of courts and be like, hey.
Oh, yeah. There's a reason why they were general, but the problem is that
how do you determine illegality of an order in the moment, Scott, right?
100%, right? Now there are certain things that are obvious. Kill that woman. That's that woman with the baby in her arms, right? And that that she's not a human. That is, that's illegal, right? That being said, there are a lot of reasons why. It's like My Lai is a perfect example, right? There's a reason why those soldiers went along with the orders that they were given. It's because they had taken a ton of casualties. They, it was like there was a lot of stressing situations that basically led them to do what they did, and many of them regretted after the fact.
Yeah,
but you're right.
They tell Lance Corporal Schmuckatelli not to shoot that woman because he knows that.
Right, right. That's 100%.
Well, and this is this is the problem with attaching politics to what the military is doing at any given moment. Because, look, man. Do you have any idea if the town that you're invading or pacifying is an enemy town? Not really. But look, if you walk into a town and everybody's like, "Hello, Americans," and you're like, "Well, but you guys are supposed to hate us," then there's going to be some problems getting guys to just kill everybody in the town.
Hey, guess who else was supposed to disobey illegal orders? Lon
Everyone under the prior administration.
Lon Horiuchi. Anyone know who that is?
Oh man.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, the sniper.
The sniper who shot Vicky Weaver.
Yeah.
The FBI cannot declare everyone hostile on a target. They're not a military. They're not a military organization, and yet they did, and he failed to, and he was prosecuted for it, but let go because he was following orders. So. It's an interesting dichotomy. They don't want to talk about him, but they'll talk about Donald Trump.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen. I've kept you much longer than you are normally are signed up to stay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you for being here.
It is deer season, bro. You're really, seriously, this is a double offense.
That's true. That's true. How dare you? Joe, looking towards the weekend, anything? Literally, Venezuela could pop off any moment. There's a lot of indicators, but that being said, just because they're indicators doesn't mean they're going hot yet.
Well, I don't know if anyone knows where all the B-52s went yesterday, but an awful lot of them took off from various bases traveling to the southeast. So I don't know what happened, along with some KC-135s. So that's interesting. I'd watch for them to pop up somewhere. I would say this: the left is going to lose their collective minds over this statement by Donald Trump over the weekend. And you're going to see some sort of a pop-up protest related to it. And don't count out Dearborn going back hot again. I happen to know that Phoenix Ammo is taking some right-wing people into that area today. So watch for that too.
Are they going as security or what's?
No, he's going to give them a tour, and they are right-wing news personalities, and it's going to be interesting. He's also going to take them to Hamtramck, so you can see. It's a city that I talk about a lot. Hamtramck went from being a tourist destination, predominantly Polish, and it is now 100% Bangladeshi Muslim.
Yeah.
And the Catholic churches can't play their bells, but the mosques can do the call to prayer. So.
Yeah, I tell you, I think there's a reckoning to be had there. I'm just curious to see what will end up happening with the whole Texas. The governor seems to, his latest PR campaign is that he's going after the Sharia courts and all that kind of stuff. That takes me to Don. What's your take on that? Texas has a problem. Let's be honest,
and a big one. And Texas's problem is Greg Abbott. He loves to say stuff like this. He less loves to do it. As soon as something hits a headline, he's perfectly happy to tell you how he is going to be the great savior of all things. He does a lot less of that. Don't get me wrong. Operation Lone Star was good. He's not totally worthless, but he very much needs a Doc Pete Chambers type of person to show up and say, Texas is going the wrong way, and I am happy to take over governorship from Abbott because Abbott is garbage, so that, one, he has any idea what to do, because he doesn't, and two, he actually has some impetus to do it. And so regardless of whether or not Pete Chambers wins, he will, in the short term, drive Texas the correct direction. The thing is, what we actually get is, and we got this with Chad Prather the last time around, is we get somebody who shows up and is like, hey, this is actually kind of a problem. Maybe we should just not. And then Abbott does the right thing for a little while. And then as soon as he doesn't have a primary challenger, he stops.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that, who do you think's going to end up in the office in the end?
Probably Abbott, honestly.
Yeah. You think you'll get.
Gents, I love the motivation for this giant social media campaign kind of thing. On the other hand, the practical application of these giant social media campaigns is that they lose.
Yeah, if social media.
Alex Soros chimed in on this issue. And if Alex Soros is talking about it, you ought to pay attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. But if social media mattered in Texas elections, then Brandon Herrera would have won by a long margin.
Exactly.
Right. Because he absolutely dominated the social media landscape of that House election. And
exactly.
He did get close, but he came up short.
Yeah, the most successful social media campaign, reasonably speaking, that we have had or are likely to have has been Herrera. And still, it just doesn't matter.
Well, the problem is that, eyeballs outside your district can't vote for you. So, I mean, that's the biggest problem there. Yeah. Don, any things that I kind of took over your thing? Anything you want to talk about coming, up in the horizon in your point of mind?
It's going to be a long route of all the same stuff. Okay, we are kind of at a decision point as a country of whether or not we're actually just going to go, okay, enough is enough, we're not doing this, or everybody's going to pick up guns and start shooting.
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. Jim Telsey for $9.99 says the evidence of sedition conspiracy is in the text and emails these 6 politicians had with whoever coordinated the video and military leaders. Hopefully they are looking at those communications. Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the lawyers advise them to say or not to say, especially if these are lawyers that work for a political party or campaign. So,
yeah.
That's all. I'm going to leave it, guys. Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate it. Don, Watcher, who is not here, and of course Jim, who jumped in for a little bit. It's always nice when Jim comes by. Guy worth listening to for sure. If you don't follow Jim, Old Hong Kong on X is where you can find him. And you can find us at all these little addresses, and we're in the notes page as well. Thank you for being here. Chat, you are awesome. We will be back on Monday at the same time that we're normally here. So until then, you guys stay safe.